believe in how you are doing your science. And we want to support.
Intro. Indonesia is a country with a rich history of innovation. From the invention of the gamelan to the development of the Pancasila, Indonesians have always been at the forefront of new ideas. But in recent years, Indonesia has faced a number of challenges. The country's population is growing rapidly, and its economy is struggling to keep up. In order to meet the challenges of the 21st century, Indonesia needs to invest in science and technology. Indonesia Science Fund. The Indonesia Science Fund is a new initiative that is helping to address this challenge. The fund provides grants to Indonesian scientists and researchers to conduct cutting-edge research. The fund has already had a significant impact. In just a few years, it has helped to fund hundreds of research projects. These projects have led to new discoveries in a wide range of fields, including medicine, agriculture, and engineering. The Indonesia Innovative Science and Development Hub. The Indonesia Science Fund is also helping to create a new hub for innovation in Indonesia. The hub will bring together scientists, researchers, and entrepreneurs to collaborate on new ideas. The hub will be located in Jakarta, and it will be open to all Indonesians. It will provide a space for people to share their ideas, learn from each other, and build the next generation of Indonesian innovators. Conclusion. The Indonesia Science Fund is an important investment in Indonesia's future. The fund is helping to create a new generation of Indonesian innovators, and it is helping to put Indonesia at the forefront of science and technology. Call to action. If you are a scientist, a researcher, an entrepreneur, or a philanthropist, you can help to build the future of Indonesia by supporting the Indonesia Science Fund. Visit the Indonesia Science Fund website today to learn more and to support us.
Mungkin tidak banyak yang mau berkarya seperti kami. Tidak banyak yang melihat apa yang kami kerjakan. Kami bekerja di balik layar kegemerlapan dunia. Namun kami bangga karena kami meneliti, menemukan, dan menciptakan manfaat bagi kehidupan. Kami bersahabat dengan ilmu pengetahuan, berkawan dengan ketekunan dan ketelitian. Karena kami sadar apa yang kami berikan harus menciptakan perubahan untuk kehidupan yang lebih baik. Menciptakan kehidupan yang sehat, raih kesembuhan banyak orang, mengembalikan semangat kegembiraan bagi jutaan insan, dan juga membangun produktivitas. Walau kami bekerja dengan banyak keterbatasan, tapi dalam keterbatasan kami menggenggam harapan. Harapan baru dalam membangun masa depan ilmu pengetahuan, mengembangkan manfaat bagi mereka yang membutuhkan. Ada yang lebih bernilai selain dukungan bagi apa yang kami kerjakan, bersama mengembangkan dunia penelitian dan ilmu pengetahuan untuk menjadi Indonesia yang unggul.
Science is a step-by-step process. It starts from an unknown thing that you want to understand, and then, piece by piece, researchers, and this, of course, is an international, global effort by many people.
Mayoritas ilmuwan itu sekarang meneliti ini. Mereka perlu ini, mereka perlu ini. Alangkah baiknya kalau kita dengan keahlian kita itu inline, begitu. Jadi kita menyumbangkan sesuatu dengan keahlian kita yang inline dengan riset dunia itu.
But there's a big difference, at least here in the United States, I hope elsewhere, between what we know of as grant support and what most business people know of as contracts. A contract, what they're doing in a by funding a grant proposal, is they're saying, we believe in how you are doing your science, and we want to support that.
Di The Conversation, kami memiliki proses editorial yang unik untuk menjamin para pembaca mendapat informasi paling baik dan paling bisa diandalkan. Para penulis kami adalah orang-orang yang sangat paham apa yang mereka tulis. Mereka akademisi dan peneliti yang ahli di bidangnya. Ide tulisan bisa datang dari para pembaca, penulis, atau editor. Biasanya, editor memantau berita untuk mencari topik yang bisa diulas lebih lanjut oleh akademisi. Editor lalu mencari siapa akademisi yang tepat untuk mengulas topik itu. Akademisi juga mengirimkan ide tulisan lewat website kami. Seringkali, ide-ide ini membahas penelitian terbaru. Kolaborasi antara editor dan akademisi akan memastikan hasil riset yang dapat dibaca, dipahami, dan dibagikan oleh masyarakat luas. Kalau editor setuju dengan ide tulisan, ia lalu membuat brief yang berisi pokok-pokok bahasan tulisan tersebut. Brief ini menjadi panduan penulisan. Setelah artikel diserahkan dan diunggah ke sistem, editor akan menambahkan gambar, grafik, audio, video, dan tautan. Editor bersama akademisi kemudian memoles tulisan dan memastikan akurasi fakta. Akademisi dan editor mengerjakan ini semua lewat platform online yang khusus kami sediakan. Pada platform ini, ada software yang menunjukkan kalau tulisan sudah sesuai untuk dibaca oleh siswa usia 16 tahun. Sehingga, konten kami menjadi sumber yang baik untuk mereka. Sebelum diterbitkan, kami meminta persetujuan dari akademisi untuk menjamin agar tidak ada kesalahan selama proses pengeditan. Penulis juga harus mengungkapkan jika ada konflik kepentingan. Misalnya, bila penulis mendapat pendanaan tertentu atau menjadi anggota partai politik. Pengungkapan ini diterbitkan di sebelah tulisan untuk menjamin keterbukaan. Setelah diterbitkan, tulisan akan bisa dibagikan sebagai konten dengan hak cipta terbuka lewat ribuan situs media yang menerbitkan ulang konten kami, seperti ABC, CNN, dan banyak lagi. Kami juga memudahkan media, peneliti, dan pihak lain untuk menghubungi para penulis setelah penerbitan. Ini membuka peluang wawancara TV, radio, media cetak, juga kesempatan kolaborasi lainnya. Selama proses ini, semua penulis dan editor dipayungi piagam redaksi kami yang melindungi kami dari pengaruh komersial dan politik. Di The Conversation, tidak ada paywall, konten bersponsor, ataupun iklan. Kami tidak memiliki posisi ideologis tertentu. Agenda kami adalah mencerahkan masyarakat dan memperkaya perdebatan publik. Kunjungi theconversation.com untuk informasi lebih lanjut.
Indonesia is a country with a rich history of innovation. From the invention of the gamelan to the development of the Pancasila, Indonesians have always been at the forefront of new ideas. But in recent years, Indonesia has faced a number of challenges. The country's population is growing rapidly, and its economy is struggling to keep up. In order to meet the challenges of the 21st century, Indonesia needs to invest in science and technology. Indonesia Science Fund. The Indonesia Science Fund is a new initiative that is helping to address this challenge. The fund provides grants to Indonesian scientists and researchers to conduct cutting-edge research. The fund has already had a significant impact. In just a few years, it has helped to fund hundreds of research projects. These projects have led to new discoveries in a wide range of fields, including medicine, agriculture, and engineering. The Indonesia Innovative Science and Development Hub. The Indonesia Science Fund is also helping to create a new hub for innovation in Indonesia. The hub will bring together scientists, researchers, and entrepreneurs to collaborate on new ideas. The hub will be located in Jakarta, and it will be open to all Indonesians. It will provide a space for people to share their ideas, learn from each other, and build the next generation of Indonesian innovators. Conclusion. The Indonesia Science Fund is an important investment in Indonesia's future. The fund is helping to create a new generation of Indonesian innovators, and it is helping to put Indonesia at the forefront of science and technology. Call to action. If you are a scientist, a researcher, an entrepreneur, or a philanthropist, you can help to build the future of Indonesia by supporting the Indonesia Science Fund. Visit the Indonesia Science Fund website today to learn more and to support us.
Mungkin Tidak banyak yang mau berkarya seperti kami. Tidak banyak yang melihat apa yang kami kerjakan. Kami bekerja di balik layar kegemerlapan dunia. Namun kami bangga karena kami meneliti, menemukan, dan menciptakan manfaat bagi kehidupan. Kami bersahabat dengan ilmu pengetahuan, berkawan dengan ketekunan dan ketelitian. Karena kami sadar apa yang kami berikan harus menciptakan perubahan untuk kehidupan yang lebih baik. Menciptakan kehidupan yang sehat, meraih kesembuhan banyak orang.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen.
Kembalikan semangat
We will
kegembiraan
start our event
bagi
in
jutaan
2
insan.
minutes. So for the participants who have attended and fill out the registration, we will invite you to sit in the room.
Aktivitas senang-senang aja. Kalau saya begitu untuk senang-senang. Kantornya kan jauh.
Kenal gitu jauh, saya harus ini harus naik tangga. Boleh kok mau masuk? Boleh. implementation. So it can be pulled and provide inputs to decision makers as well to establish expert networks. Connecting knowledge development with program infrastructure for the social ecological resilience and climate nature-based solution through a series of dialogues. And speaking of dialogues, today we will have two very interesting dialogue discussion with a number of panelists who have already joined us today. And after the discussion, we hope that the panelists and the participants will stay in this area because later there will be a networking break and lunch session where the participants and panelists can have a deeper discussion. So without wasting much more time, let's start this event. And I would like to invite Professor Daniel Murdiarso, the President of Indonesia Academy of Science or IPI, to deliver the welcoming remark.
Selamat pagi. I think I've been exercising a number of posts here in the past 2 weeks to open sessions like this. Last week, I was sitting behind a table. 2 days ago, I was standing behind a microphone, and now I'm like a singer delivering message from IIT. Well, anyway. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, friends and colleagues. It is my pleasure to welcome you all today. IIP, the Indonesian Academy of Sciences, is not a school. We don't have director to give degree to anybody. It is also not a award giving kind of prize. It's like the academy, but we are nurturing and promoting science and young scientists. So when IIP was established in 1990, it is 33 years ago. 2 decades later, a twin were born. Naming DIPI and ALMI by the previous presidents. It was initiated around 2010. So we have the Indonesian Research Fund called DIPI, Dana Ilmu Pengetahuan Indonesia, and ALMI is the Young Akademi Ilmuwan Muda. So this twin, we were expecting to flourish with a result, a deliverable, which are actionable and evidence-based. It's very slow growing kind of exercise, painful maybe. And we keep pushing, IIP keep pushing these 2 little kids to mingle with the rest of the world in the science community, scientific community. And we are glad today that Pak Yatna, who is the new executive director of DIPI, is reaching out to you as community of concern about science. And we very much hope that this beginning will flourish with a number of productive interaction between scientific, policy, business, industries, communities. Beautiful word, if we can manage to do that. And today you mark this very important moment to initiate that kind of exercise. And I'm glad to look at the list of speakers here. Look at this. This is a display of future, hope, and expectation how science can flourish. IIP has been very keen to do this for a long time to promote and nurture scientific community and science itself. And again, with a number of constraints, we are challenged to do something real. And I think the world needs us. Out there, people are expecting good scientific outcome to help solving a number of problems. We have many in Indonesia: climate change, disasters, biodiversity loss, you can name it. And everything is here. And we are here to try to help at any possible rate so that we can deliver, again, actionable evidence so that the policy community can formulate what is best for the policy makers to help solve the problems. And for industries, this is something new for me and maybe for IP, that industries are involved. And I can see, again, a number of people who are very keen and been in that spheres for a long time, and we have not reached out yet. And today, I think it's the beginning how to engage with you so that we can be more active and faster in reaching what we are expecting to have. So with this very wealthy set of speakers and ideas, I believe that we will have a very productive conversation today. So I wish you all the best for today's discussion, and expect a very tangible and real product out of this conversation today. So enjoy the day, and I'll be here the whole day with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Daniel, for the welcoming remarks. And now we will start our first discussion. I would like to invite Professor Damayanti Bukhori from Center for Transdisciplinary and Sustainability Science, Institute Pertanian Bogor, and the member of IPI. Professor Damayanti will be our moderator in this discussion. She will invite the panelists and introduce them to you. Please, Professor Damayanti, the floor is yours.
Hello, good morning. It's nice to be here. So we will have a distinguished panelist here in front of us. And yeah, hello to all of the online viewers also. It's an honor to be here, and a very important event that we will be discussing about the Innovative Science and Development Hub, a very important platform for Indonesia, especially in times when science is now being questioned because of the hoax and all the pseudoscience that are around. So it's more important to have this platform to help educate the community and also to advance science policy interface. So with that, I would like to introduce the panelists for today. I think I will sit in the middle here. So I would like to invite, the first is Bapak Dr. Joko Triharyanto. Bapak, monggo. He is the President Director of the Indonesian Environmental Fund, an old friend of mine. Very nice to see you this morning. And then the second one is Mr. Florian Gonzalez, the Attaché for Global Issue, Embassy of France. Silakan. And then Mr. Jeffrey Cohen, maybe he's not here yet, Mission Director. Okay, he's been called by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, so he won't be here with us, okay? And the last one is Mr. Muammar Febri, Climate Change and Forestry EU Delegation ASEAN, EU Delegation Indonesia and Brunei Darussalam. Welcome. Okay, so in the next 1 hour, we will have a discussion, dialogue between the panelists, and there will be questions that will be asked based on, well, actually there's a cheat sheet here, but let's see what the development will be. So we will have about 4 minutes of remark from each of the speakers. And then after the, well, it's supposed to be 3, but since the mission director is not here, I think we can have more than that. So 4 to 5 minutes, I think is fine. And so we will have 5-minute remark from each of the speakers, and then we will start the question. So, if according to this, I can start with Pak Joko, but Pak Joko mentioned that it's okay if he comes later. Is that it? Okay. So I would like to invite Bapak Florian Gonzalez.
Selamat pagi semua. Good morning. I'm very pleased to be here on such important topics. And so I might not completely respect the 4-minute limit. So I apologize in advance, but I guess there are so many important aspects that I want to cover. And also my cheat sheet is actually the way I'm going to share with you. I like to improvise, but I'm not going to improvise on these topics. In addition, today I'm also substituting and representing the head of cooperation who is not here, and my colleague who is the science and technology attaché who is not here. But I am with my colleague who is the deputy attaché for science and technology, Stephanie, who is with us and who will help me in the debate later, as she's very knowledgeable about our cooperation and all the projects. So my title, which is a bit broad, is Attaché for Global Challenges. And now to give you a little bit of content, obviously I'm addressing climate change, biodiversity, energy, and so on. So first and foremost, being very proud to be here with you for such an important event. I wanted to state that the French Embassy feels very aligned with ISDH mission and role. And obviously, we look forward to partnering. Now, to begin with, and you will have some slightly provocative aspects in my speech. These provocations are meant to reflect and to open the debate later, so don't take everything literally. The first quote is from 1532, from a very famous French writer called Rabelais, who had a great sense of humor as well. So, translated directly into English, it says, "Science without conscience is but ruin of the soul." So I think it's quite interesting that this quote is almost 500 years old and comes from a pretty humorous piece of literature. So to me, that proverb means that science must be subject to consciousness, or at least some form of morality to avoid excesses. We can take as an example the nuclear bomb, a groundbreaking scientific discovery which nevertheless caused many victims and has the potential of eradicating any form of life on Earth. And a second quote, which is probably even more provocative, in 1887, one of our French leaders said, "War is too serious to entrust it to military." So my provocation is to translate that into science is too serious to be left in the hands of scientists. Now, I think a very contemporary example that we have all become very aware of nowadays is AI. So I'll go straight into AI, which is now becoming, according to scientists, a threat to humanity because we developed it without collective legal rules and control. So until recently, AI was seen as the quintessence of science, innovation, and research meant to improve our lives. And now it is perceived as the most urgent threat. How did that happen? Even Elon Musk, which usually is not very shy of innovation, has sent regular warnings as to the fatal danger of AI. And I'll quote blog and vlog that I watched this week, where I don't know how to pronounce his name, Gaudat, an Egyptian scientist, a former top Google employee, said AI is a bigger emergency than climate change. So I don't know if I agree on that, but I think it's quite fascinating that a Google exec who has been in charge of most even innovations at Google said that. And to show you how far he goes, he said we should tax AI companies at 98% to slow them down a little bit. That's how dramatic such a scientist and leader is expressing itself about AI. So I invite you to watch this vlog called The Diary of a CEO podcast, where he expresses why he's so dramatic about it. but he just added the likelihood of something incredibly disruptive happening within the next 2 years that can affect the entire planet is definitely larger with AI than it is with climate change. Now I'll share some of the opinions from my colleague Thierry, the scientific attaché who is not here. So they are inspired by what we call the Declaration of Marseille, adopted in 2022 under the French presidency of the European Union Council. So there's a text online, Marseille Declaration, Europa, EU. You can find it. Just a few elements, which I think will also serve as a basis for the debate. So Marseille Declaration on International Cooperation and Research and Innovation. The French presidency of the Council of the European Union organized on 8 March 2022 in Marseille, conference on a global approach of research, innovation, and higher education, gathering the ministers responsible of R&I of the member states of the European Union. The objective was to move forward with the implementation of the new strategy for international cooperation in research and innovation of the European Union and to better concert the Union and member states' approaches to third countries. By finding common solutions for societal challenges and by contributing towards a key role of the Union in global value chains. In this respect, and that's an important part, international cooperation should promote in particular democratic values and cooperation for peace, the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals of the 2030 Agenda in the context of mutually beneficial and balanced partnership. And the conclusion of that declaration, it's a 6-page document, which I invite you to read, towards a multilateral dialogue on principles and values of international cooperation with key international partners. It is appropriate to call for an international cooperation in research and innovation, as well as in higher education, which is based on shared principles and values and mutually beneficial and contributes in particular, again, to the SDGs of the 2030 Agenda. So I won't read more of that document. I think it's a great base for our discussion later. And it shows again how important it is to France and the EU to have such a mutual cooperation in terms of science and innovation. So my colleague Thierry wanted me to emphasize a few principles on the scientific side, which come from France, but I think are quite universal, though not maybe as universal as we might think. To him, the freedom of the researcher is quintessential, the freedom to communicate. Yet scientists have a responsibility and they must establish and respect ethical rules, particularly when working on living subjects. Yet they must also comply with intellectual property constraints. Now, when it comes to sciences and politics, Thierry wanted to emphasize a few aspects which maybe we forget from time to time. The researcher's freedom is somewhat opposed to politics, at least in theory, as it must not be led by a political agenda. It must remain as objective as it can, and policies must be informed by science. But we need an intermediary between science and politics, a person capable of understanding and translating scientific issues into the political, economic, and social systems. So that was a message from Thierry and our scientific department. Now a few questions, and again, sorry if I'm long, I'll try to fast forward. I'm actually 50 years old, and there's a certain importance if I emphasize that. 50 years ago, we had the Meadows report, which was establishing what was about to happen and which we see nowadays, but for some reason it was ignored. So how did we not listen to scientists that warned us on climate change 50 years ago, on biodiversity loss and other threats to our sustainability on this planet? So at least for the past 50 years, scientists have known and foreseen that we were going to hit a wall. The political, financial, and modern leaders looked the other way. And many lobbies, including oil and gas, denied climate change and tried to bury under the carpet scientific evidence in the name of profit and growth. Another disclaimer, I used to work for a long time for the private sector, including oil and gas. So nobody should feel attacked I include myself. How can we explain that despite a constant scientific and technological progress, we have ignored the Meadows report of 72, the Brundtland report of 87, and that no country, I absolutely say no country, is aligned right now with the UN SDGs with a 2030 target? How can we explain that in spite of the repeated warnings from scientists of the IPCC, including with their latest report in 2023, we have not been able as an animal species considered the most intelligent to turn around and adapt to the threats? So again, I will quote the IPCC report because it is my understanding that most of us don't take the time to read them. So I think this is a great opportunity to share and again provoke the debate afterward. So in Switzerland on March 20 this year, this report came out saying there are multiple feasible and effective options to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and adapt to human-caused climate change, and they are available now, said scientists in the latest IPCC report. Mainstreaming effective and equitable climate action will not only reduce losses and damages for nature and people, it will also provide wider benefits, said IPCC chair. This synthesis report underscores the urgency of taking more ambitious action and shows that if we act now, we can still secure a livable, sustainable future for all. In 2018, IPCC highlighted the unprecedented scale of the challenge required to keep warming to 1.5%. 5 years later, that challenge has become even greater, and I insist on that sentence, due to a continued increase in greenhouse gas emissions. So I make a pause here. Despite all our efforts from governments, embassies, NGOs, the problem keeps on growing, which is, I think, quite fascinating when you think of how many smart minds have been working on these issues and warning. I think this deserves a little break to question ourselves and how we can again think of ourselves as an intelligent species if despite the warnings and now a certain unanimity on these causes, we haven't been able to turn around. So I invite you to read the rest because it's a pretty long and fascinating report. And I think we should absolutely all read that report. Otherwise, we miss on the scientific evidence that should be the stepping stone for action. So I'll also pass on the many examples of how we try to cooperate in terms of science and development. Again, during the debate with Stephanie, we'll be more than happy to share with you. I just mentioned quickly that we have financing programs for researchers and scientists, that we have some scholarships. So feel free to liaise with Thierry and Stephanie. We are more than happy to not only support, cooperate, but also to revise what we're doing and to question what we're doing. We also have, as a colleague mentioned during our coffee just before, AFD, the French Development Bank, which is well known and has a very strong green agenda and is acting also based on science. We also have CIRAD, more linked to land matters, agriculture, forestry, RRD, which is another science agency working also on biodiversity and marine aspects. And eventually we need a cooperation department where I work. We have a new program called IFI, which means the French Institute Untuk Bumi, which is very much evidence of where our priorities are. So I'll pass on the examples of our cooperation and I'll come to some conclusions. Only if we learn to truly cooperate at all levels, meaning scientific, political, financial, can we face the tremendous challenge that humanity is facing. Capitalism, financial markets, or blind development have shown their very limits, and we're now facing a risk of collapse and eventually extinction. And I'm talking humans, not animals. So science with consciousness need to walk hand in hand so as to literally reinvent the way we live, work, and relate to the living world. And I'm not saying the environment, which the word is very questionable, the living world. From mining to agriculture, energy and mobility, architecture and finance, we need to reinvent ourselves. Now my question is, are we intelligent enough to reinvent ourselves, to shift our paradigms, our financial and business models? is it still time to slow down the pace of climate change and also foster a just and fair transition for all countries and regions? And by mentioning fair and just, obviously, DIPI, which is the energy program with Indonesia led by the US and Japan, meant to bring an energy transition here. And finally, we must definitely reconcile science with sustainability, and we must redefine development itself to give it a more realistic, more circular, more inclusive vision. On a planet with finite resources, we cannot act as if we had another planet. That much we know. Thank you so much for your patience, as it was a bit longer than I should.
Thank you very much, Mr. Florian. Wow, what a wonderful introduction to ideas and very deep thoughts about science. So as we can see, the title is Innovative Science and Development Hub. So Mr. Florian really gave us a floor of what innovative science is, with that deep question of does humanity have intelligence to shift our paradigm? It's something that we can do, but it may be hard to do, even though we can. So thank you so much. A little bit background for Mr. Florian. It's not surprising to hear your presentation, looking at your background here. So he started his career as a business lawyer and business developer, and then consulting sustainable development, and then also graduated as an attorney from Sorbonne University and an MBA. And he speaks 5 languages. Oh, wow, 5 languages, including Bahasa Indonesia, yeah? Okay. Okay, so now he's a new mission as Cooperation and Sustainable Development Advisor in Indonesia. So thank you so much. The next, I would like to invite Pak Joko, a little bit of his background. He has long experience as a think tank at the Fiscal Policy Agency for Climate Change Financing and Multilateral Policy at the Ministry of Finance. And he's responsible for formulating fiscal policy and financing to support the mitigation and adaptation of climate change. So it's really an honor to have Pak Joko here. So the time is yours.
Thank you, Prof. Damayanti. Thank you, Pak Yatna. Thank you, Pak. Thank you, Prof. Daniel. This is my honors, surrounding the very great suhu, and a bit different with Florian, perhaps, because he is like a philosopher, and I'm the practitioner person, particularly when we talk about the finance. So this is just my short provocation to introduce BPDLH or Indonesia Environment Fund. My institution actually still young, established since 2019. This is the representative from the government. So, but BPDLH like a operator, BPDLH will actually now we already have many portfolio, because BPDLH set up by the organization. We have steering committee, almost various, consists of 10 line minister, Ministry of Environment, Ministry of Industry, Ministry of Transportation, Ministry of Fisheries, Ministry of Transportation, Ministry of Energy, MOHA, Ministry of Home Affairs, Bappenas as well. And our principal actually under the Ministry of Finance, even the head of a steering committee based on the Ministry of ECOIN, Ministry of Coordinating Economy. So you can imagine how we can serve all those line minister, but from the basic thinking, all the steering committee from the BPDLH actually represent the main sectoral under the government commitment, particularly under the NDC document 2030. This is quite interesting, if we look from the existing portfolio from the BPDLH now, even we can see we have many steering committee, but if we compare each other, now BPDLH really dominant by land-based sector funding, particularly under the RED Plus issue. We already manage RPP, result-based payment from GCF, quite big, 103.8 million from the national reduction 2014 till 2016, and already dispersed from the first phase, and we are ready to disperse second phase from this money delivered to all province in Indonesia based on the contribution, each province. We also manage two specific result-based East Kalimantan under the FCPF, Forest Carbon Partnership Facility, 110 million USD. We deliver to all the beneficiary, not only from the provincial level, but also from the district, regency, private, as well as the community-based level. This is just like the beneficiary, benefit from the BPDLH, because we can offer flexibility rather than manage under the government budget system. And we also manage biocarbon fund. This is the sister payment, result-based payment with East Kalimantan, paid by World Bank, but smaller rather than East Kalimantan. Biocarbon based in Jambi Provincial, only 50 million USD, with the reduction emission targeted almost 10 million CO2 equivalent. But this is quite interesting because start to transform the paradigm, particularly when we discuss about the contribution regional level to achieve NDC target 2030, particularly when we talk about the coordination among the central government with the local government. And the current result-based payment also already managed under the BPDLH, 56 million US dollar, funded by Norway under the cooperation among the government of Indonesia with the Royal Government of Norway. Already prepared very well under the BPDLH. We are ready to finalize our safeguard mechanism, environment safeguard, social safeguards, gender safeguard, and also financial safeguard. And we are ready to disburse a portion from the central government as well as also other beneficiary. And the incoming program, we also manage mangrove fund. Mangrove fund will consist two different methods, a grant from World Bank as well as the payment from state budget, quite big, almost 6 trillion rupiah, so a very huge money, will disperse to North Sumatra, Riau Provincial, East Kalimantan, and also North Kalimantan to push the BRGM targeted to conserve and rehab almost 6 the land degradation from mangrove. We already dispersed under the management of KLHK, BRGM, as well as Marpes. And another instrument managed by BPDLH, if we discuss the previous funding, we disperse under program window, financial program window. Another financial program window, we also manage what we call revolving fund and also debt natur swap. Revolving fund particularly deliver to forestry sector, community-based level, and DNS, debt natur swap, specific for promoting waste management, particularly in several region level. And another milestone for us, actually, the government already giving mandate, give us and we create endowment fund under disaster fund, and then we can deliver to like disaster insurance mechanism or other financial instrument. But we are still propose our license from the government to get permit, in front of the government investment committee. So after we get our permit, after we get our license, we can disperse this money, this endowment fund under the disaster fund, and distribute to financial instrument like reduction scheme or climate insurance or other financial instrument. Another sector actually are still on the final discussion, like energy. We already managed some performance grant under the JEF 7, development solar panel to 19 provinces. And now we are on the final discussion with the Australian government to set what we call energy efficiency fund, managed under the BPDLH, as well as just energy transition partnership, JETP coalition, because I'm the PIC on the JETP coalition from the Ministry of Finance on my previous position. And speaking with the Ministry of Environment as well as the Ministry of Ministry of Fisheries, and also Prof. Yatna, we are thinking to construct new model business to create what we call endowment fund for conservation both sides, from the terrestrial, from the forestry, as well as from the marine area. This is quite fascinating if we can implement, and then we can construct the KPI, menus, and also distribute to the proper and prominent beneficiary. So this is like the summary of BPDLH. Hopefully we can collaborate next, and quite challenging if we can construct together, because when we talk how the BPDLH will distribute and deliver beneficiary, we can deliver by ourselves directly, or we can use another beneficiary like NGO, research center as intermediate institution alongside the BPDLH. This is our offer to all the institutions, because we think BPDLH will grow a very dynamic, and we can say mari tumbuh kembang bersama with the BPDLH. Terima kasih.
Thank you very much, Pak Joko. A very complete and thorough explanation on BPDLH. It's wow, I did not know that there are already so this distribution of the funds is already happening, and then more money is coming. Well, congratulations. Okay, our next speaker is Mr. Muammar Febri. So he has been serving for almost 2 decades as Senior Development Cooperation officer for the EU and ASEAN countries. And he currently manages climate change, forestry, and marine conservation program for the EU delegation to ASEAN. And his role involves leading the implementation of the EU-ASEAN cooperation project worth 100 million. Wow, that's huge. And he's also responsible for the EU bilateral support to Indonesia in land use, LULUK CF, and low carbon planning, resource efficiency, and biodiversity. So the time is yours.
Thank you, Ibu Damayanti. Yang terhormat Pak Edna, Pak Daniel, it's a great pleasure, great honor for me to be here to sort of sharing some knowledge that the EU delegation to ASEAN has accumulated over the years in terms of our understanding on the merit of research at the core of our works and on the development sector, particularly on the land use and land use change area, marine conservations, and also on the areas of energies, for instance. I'm a kind of a little bit put under a lot of pressures because Florian spoke from a philosophical point of view, whereby Pak Joko really talking a lot in terms of practical points. So I have to speak somewhere in between, if you don't mind. So I'd like to start with a very old adagium, very old quote from Hardin. Hardin wrote The Tragedy of the Commons. I think everyone read this back in the 60s. Yeah, Tragedy of the Common. He put it very blatantly like this: there is no technical solution. There is only a political solution. Full stop. And so I really like when he put it that way in the shortest term, that in any things that we do, the hegemonics of the political construction is very important in setting the tone, is setting the way we achieve something. So there is one fact we recently learned when it comes into how research plays into the public sphere. Yeah, how the professionals, how the scientists influence the general publics. Might not relevant to our sectors, but really fascinating to study that in the skincare sectors, in the beauty sectors, 78% of the skincare consumer listens to the influencers. And only 0.7% listen to the professionals / doctors. What does it tell you? Influencer rules. Yeah, so we scientists are basically sitting on the back bench. So I think, where does this get? How come we reach into this kind of terrain, basically? I think to put it in the shortest term, I mean, philosophers most of the time are focusing on why, whereby scientists focusing on how, and influencer, they just focusing on selling. So probably is lack of selling. Yeah, probably lack of communicating on what we do. That is very imperative in terms of influencing the greater good, the common good, in terms of achieving sustainable goal, green transition and JETP and so on. So I'd like to underline the importance that knowledge creation to research is very important. But one thing that we should not neglect it. I think one thing that we need to put at the very core of it is to focus on the knowledge diffusions. So diffusions of knowledge is very important if we want to get all the technical solution out there being bought by the public. Even that, after the diffusion takes place, as Ibu correctly pointed out, we live in the post-positivist era, where fake news rules, whereby the result of the good research, that is very valid, scientifically backed with a strong evidence, tend to be disputed by alternative facts, which travel fast more than the truth itself, which by the time we try to clarify the truth, the fake news already travels very fast. So I think there are many challenges in diffusing this knowledge. So the EU as a regional organization put research at the very heart of our development strategy. Florian has already mentioned some of it already. I don't like to repeat it, but I work very closely with IRD. So it's a French research and development entity that are very good in terms of knowledge creations. And IRD plays a very instrumental role as well in terms of providing policy making, policy advice to the government of French. But at the EU, we have a dedicated research unit where what we call is a joint research center, a GRC. Yeah, this joint research center is very important when it comes to policy creation. At the EU, when we create policy, there are two ways. First, it's created by the European Parliament, and then the parallel track usually is led by the Council, which is the Council led by our presidents, yeah, the presidents of the EU member state. GRC always provide the science-based evidence that determine the validity of the policy making itself. So I think all of the colleagues in here are very familiar with the RED II, the EUDR policies and so on. Those elements is clearly backed by a solid research. Now, even research and science can be disputed depending on the point of view, depending as like Florian say, I like what Florian quoted Thomas Kuhn, the paradigm shift. So I'm trying to be a little bit philosophical, Florian. I think paradigm shift is important. Kuhn coined this term back on the 60s as well in his book, The Scientific Revolution, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. So when we push for paradigm shift, I think it's also very important to not only focusing on the research that is only based on solutions. You've seen a lot of research. I've seen a lot of research, not only from Indonesia, because I dealt with 10 ASEAN countries, not only Indonesia. Most of the research are focusing on the solutions. Very rarely and seldomly, it touches a very fundamental issues on how do we relate with natures. Yeah. How do we as human beings shifting from the Cartesian point of view, for instance, yeah? How do we see our natures, yeah, from ecological philosophy perspectives, yeah, the ecosophy, for example. I have not seen much research coming out from ecosophy perspective. Not only that, I went many times to a lot of political science school in Indonesia or elsewhere in the regions. I've asked, is there any expert on political ecology in here? None, mostly on democracies. Yeah. So even in our political research, most of the emphasis is being put on the civic, the democracy, but we still not more, I do believe that we need more researchers focusing on political ecology, which is a branch up of the political economy. Very good research in Europe, for instance, and in the US, yeah. People like Arnaiz, the father of ecosophy, gives a lot of basic understanding how human relates with nature. We need to have more people, more researchers, debating at this fundamental aspect, because when we get the fundamental correct, the solution will come automatically. I'd like to close my speech by saying this. It's not a quote. I just made it up this morning. Vision without execution is hallucinations. Yeah. And research without action is simply a discussion. We don't want to discuss. We want to do something meaningful. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Wow, this morning has been really 3 wonderful speakers we've listened. Yeah. The first part, Florian started the philosophy. And this is this is very provoking to us scientists. Science is too important to be left to the scientist. I really like that. Yes, I really like that, because, and then he goes on about AI and the threat, etc. And talking about the importance of freedom of the researchers, and then there are ethicals, rules. But how is it that we have to comply with the politics, etc.? And then Pak Muammar or Pak Febri, yeah, Pak Febri. Wow, you're a philosopher too, yeah. Thomas Kuhn, shifting paradigm, yeah. But it is so true when you mention that the political ecology, at least in Indonesia, it has not really have a very strong, should I say, follower or people here in Indonesia. We are being directed to do research that are more pragmatic, solution, etc. And if that's the national agenda, then maybe that will be the role of our ISHD, the Innovative Science and Development Hub. How is it that ISDH can influence the trajectory, the strategy of science in Indonesia? Pak Joko really laid out the foundation for a strong organization, strong institution, government-based, with funding from multilateral, multi-donor agency, and has very strong also distribution, and already have some result-based payment, debt swap, etc. So already have a strong institution, strong strategy, and clear vision for the future for the environment. The question is, does science have any role in BPDLH? Because Bapak is going to leave. He has to leave in 10:20, ya Bapak ya. So allow me to ask question to Pak Joko. The first is, what do you think of the link between ISDH to BPDLH?
Yeah. Yeah. Like my previous statement actually in BPDLH, because I'm also the semi-academic people previously after my choice to leave my academic title. But in BPDLH actually this is also very benefit if BPDLH rely on the science issue. That's why we also manage another fund through Prof, supported by Ford Foundation, big philanthropies, Ford Foundation, and also KLUA. We manage a specific fund, performance grant for indigenous people, as well as from the community-based level to increase their capacity. And we deliver not only direct from BPDLH, but also use the intermediate institution like I mentioned before. We selected a prominent NGO, CSO, and also deliver to research center just to balance the science with the implementation. But my concern, of course, not specific on the basic science, on the basic research. We are really focused on the customized research, on the implementation research. Because if we look and also we reverse from the basic science, of course, this is not mandatory from the BPDLH. We can ask to our colleagues, LPDP or BRIN. So to avoid the overlapping, of course, we are really focused on the customized research, customized science. But we are still rely on the science as our compass, as our policy navigator to Prof. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Can I ask to the organizer how much more time I have? 10 minutes? Okay, just 10 minutes left. Okay, so I would like to continue with Pak Florian and also Pak Febri. Febri. Okay, so, wow, I don't know where to start because well, first of all, I teach philosophy of science. So I just love your comments. First declaration here. The second is more related also to maybe, okay, so we have this ISDH, and we have heard from Pak Joko that yes, they do have some fundings for science, and hopefully there will be something that links with traditional knowledge, masyarakat adat, traditional knowledge, because we have, so in Indonesia have local knowledge, traditional knowledge that is full of wisdom. And then we have this new science, the Western science, measured, repeatable, neutral, etc. So with all this development of science and technology, where are we now, right? Florian already mentioned, you don't really see anything sustainable in the world because people are still looking at the short-term, medium economy and growth. So my question to you, sir, as an attaché for global challenge, do you think that in the ISDH, I always forget this, ISDH, do you see something that do you see a future between the French government, the global challenge of reconnecting the past, learning from the past, the wisdom, etc., for a sustainable future via science? Is it possible to reconcile the knowledge of the past, the wisdom of the past, but the precision of the future? Is it possible, sir? And would you like to have any role in that? Do you think that there will be funding coming from your country to ISDH so that we can develop something that is truly, truly important for us all?
Thank you so much for the question. There are a few disclaimers again that I have to make. First one, with all due respect to my friends who are philosophers, I'm not a philosopher, which is a discipline I have so much respect for. So I don't want to insult philosophers. As it was said, I was trained as a lawyer first in international law, and then I trained in business doing an MBA. So I'm far from a philosopher. But having said that, and answering your question, two aspects. The first one with funding, definitely. That's why I'm here. I'm not here to talk about philosophy, but to say that France is definitely, backing what I'm saying here with the funding. So within the embassy with Stephanie and Thierry for science directly, with IRD and CIRAD for concrete projects and research, and most importantly, as everybody knows, with AFD, with like very deep funding. This is a development bank, so most of our money is there. I think this must be clear to everybody. The funding within the embassy is reasonable, and we try to allocate it the best way possible. But, it's micromanaged, whereas AFD has the capacity to make tremendous impact together with other development banks, which are very active in the area and working together most of the time. Not to mention the fact that I also miss the fact that Jeff is not here, because I was very curious about what he was about to say. Now back to the way I see things and why I had these provocative statements. It's just because I'm pragmatic. So I'm not a philosopher, with due respect to philosophers, but I'm very pragmatic. So as I have exactly the same age as the Meadows report, which was outstandingly clear, I'm bound to ask myself, to ask my friends, whether they are CEOs, investors, diplomats, scientists, why have we failed? And this is a very pragmatic question. The problem is we are scaling up a model that doesn't work. And what is really scary is that most people don't see it. So when I started to work in sustainability, which was pretty much 28 years ago, I was doing research and report for the Ministry of Justice in France on European environmental law, which frankly at the time did not interest anybody. And so in these 28 years, I worked in many fields. And as I said, including oil and gas and energy, where I was really in the heart of the reactor. Then I worked in the luxury, including in cosmetics, where I could see how people were fooled by, this marketing. And I'm sorry for the market, for the cosmetics companies today that take quite overheat, selling products that most often we don't need or that even have negative consequences. So that's why I think we all need, as individuals, as governments, as financial institutions, as companies, to question why we're doing what we're doing and where we're going with that. So that's why I said in business, we say, if you have a company that is not working, if you're expanding that company, you're just expanding a problem. And it's the same for every aspect. And I think science is absolutely crucial in every aspect of what we said, but sometimes research needs to be refined for two reasons. And that was part of what I didn't have the time to say. That was actually my conclusion. In my own view, and again, I'm not a scientist, I'm not a researcher, so everyone has to adapt what I'm saying to their own reality. But science has to focus on sustainability a lot more and into the translation of the conclusion of any scientific research in the markets, in the political arena, and so on. So it has to be quite pragmatic now, quite useful, and quite urgent in a way. And it has also to foresee, to the extent possible, the consequences of the new inventions or new discoveries. The example of AI, I think, again, is extremely clear, but there are so many examples. So every scientist, even if they need, obviously, autonomy and freedom, as we said, needs to have a broader view of what he or she is doing. Now, as this question is so deep and so broad, back to indigenous knowledge and old traditions, I think it's important that I share, because obviously, in a way, I look very Western, and, I studied in French university, French business school, and so on. But from a very early age, and I'm talking about when I was 3-4 years old, I was already very much into Eastern philosophies. Starting with a very kitsch reason, I'm sorry for that, but I was watching Bruce Lee movies. And Bruce Lee happened to study philosophy, which not many people know, including Western philosophy. So at this tender age, because I loved Bruce Lee and martial arts, I started to, get an interest into Eastern philosophy. And part of the reason why I'm in Indonesia is absolutely not random. It's not that just the government said, oh, why don't you go there? They knew I wanted to come here, not only because I love Indonesian cultures with S, but because there's a lot of Indonesian history and patrimony that is extremely appealing to me. And obviously, in our modern day, it's not like we're going to go back to the way we were living 10, 50, 500 years ago. Of course not. But there's a lot of wisdom in the way we were doing so many things, including agriculture at so many levels, including the way we were preserving forests or the way we were taking care of fisheries, and so on and so forth. So definitely we need to combine cutting edge technology, innovation, science, but there should be absolutely no condescendence or arrogance from anybody towards indigenous knowledge and past technology, even some low tech that often very much works. Last example, because I'm very talkative, in France, for instance, right now we are rediscovering some habits we had when I was a child, like just making glass bottles circular locally, which is very simple, very low tech. It just disappeared. And now we discovered that it makes sense instead of just trashing the glass or even recycling the glass, which is very much intense in energy consumption and logistics and carbon emission. So these simple solutions need to be rediscovered. Not to mention, as a last example, as a tribute to Indonesia, the beauty of traditional fabrics. I mean, everybody has bought from H&M, Zara, and whoever else. But obviously, these pieces are not only not sustainable, not ethical most of the time, not fair trade, but people trash them because they are so cheap, they don't care about their T-shirt or their shoes. Whereas if you buy an ikat, a proper ikat, I don't think you're going to trash it. So I think, there's a place for everything, and fashion as a whole needs to absolutely make a revolution, which has started but is too slow. But there's a tremendous beauty in discovering that we're not consuming beings. So we should not find in consumption a reason for being. And this is not philosophy again. This is a very, very important aspect, because I see around me how much people try to find some happiness in consumption. And I think this is one of the major problems. I'll stop here.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, so this is for you. I think we have one more question for you. I would like to reiterate what you said earlier about knowledge diffusion. Yeah, that really got me. And so my question relates to. So do you think that science has not really done its job in trying to infiltrate the mind and the heart of the community? And do you see a role of ISDH in that? And would you like to be part of that? Would you like to be involved in developing ISDH for that? There.
Thank you, Ibu. First of all, I will answer the first question. My task is dealing with the ASEAN's program. So as much as I love Indonesian and support Indonesians, good initiative, but I have to speak to my colleagues who's handling the Indonesian portfolios. Yeah, so but I think there is an opportunity for that because at the EU delegation in Indonesia, we have emphasis as well on the importance of research. Yeah, there's a lot of program like Horizon 2020, FP7, and then we also support sending a lot of Indonesian scholars who wants to do postdoc to the European university. I mean, this is top university like TU Leuven, TU Delft, all of these technical, but also science universities. And then we also send a lot of young Indonesians to study, to take a Erasmus master degree. Yeah, so every year, 100, 150 young Indonesian who wants to pursue the secondary degree, they want to take a PhD, and even some who wants to pursue their postdoctoral degrees are supported under the Erasmus program. So there is a lot of opportunity, I think, and also on the annual basis, usually we do a lot of call for proposal for research institutions who wants to teaming up with European university tap into the European funding for research, or what we call as a Horizon 2020 or FP7. So there is an opportunity to do that, and I might be able to inform you how to access those funding. Of course, it is a competitive funding into tapping it, but I believe that the Indonesian university are very vibrant. Yeah, I'm a product of Indonesian universities myself. Yeah, so so I'm a product of Indonesian universities. So I think Indonesian universities are producing bright minds, which some of the bright minds are. Many of them, I just read in the news, moved to Singapore, for instance. That's also another facts that I've read yesterday on the news. Yeah, so I don't know if it is true or facts or not facts. I don't know. It's just something I read in Compass. So I think there is a lot of opportunities for that to explore. And touching back what you said earlier on the knowledge diffusion, I think the research community has tried to do their best in terms of communicating the result of their research. Yeah, but sometimes I've seen that there is a structures behind that. Like for instance, I tell you corpus indexing. So for instance, I'm sure you are very familiar with this. So and Pak Jana as well, a colleague who's our researcher. So I think how to make this research is more pop. Yeah, so it's a challenge. Yeah, I mean, like there is an art, but there is a pop art. Yeah, so the one that resonates with people's hearts, the one that speaks to the commoners. Yeah, so these are the trick in facilitating the what you call it, the esoteric knowledge into an exoteric knowledge. Yeah, so it's a very difficult task to transform that. So I think, but it is not impossible. It's not impossible. I think by bringing more people that has a knowledge on marketing, for instance. I mean, not all marketing is bad. Yeah, so I think we tend to see people whose marketing thing are bad, but without people whose marketing, without doing real marketing, that some of our companies couldn't make money and they cannot pay taxes. Yeah? So it's not bad. It's bad as well for countries. So I think the trick is to focus how to transform the esoteric knowledge to exoteric, and for this research community, I believe should sit more with people who understand the marketing, the gigs, yeah, the what they call it as a gimmicks, for instance, in the marketing gigs. Yeah, so I think bringing people with this set of expertise who can bring down the knowledge into something that is easily to be understood. Yeah, something that can be easily grasped, something that does not require a critical thinking to be absorbed, something that you can capture in the flash of the eye. Okay, that's it. That's the information in it. So I think we need to bring more people like this, yeah, into discussion, into the discourses. And a lot of has been done. I've seen a lot of research trying to use the social media and communicate it. But I think social media, again, is just a platform. Yeah. So if you want to do it right, I think there should be clear thinking behind that, and people with the marketing, yeah, especially digital marketing, yeah, who understand the SOE, for instance, search engine optimization, for instance. We need that type of people if you want to push the knowledge diffusions. Yeah. Otherwise, the online gambling will just using it. You know, if you go everywhere, suddenly there is a text, play this online gambling. So that's also knowledge diffusion in a bad way. Yeah, in a bad way. Yeah. Which, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much, Pak Febri. Let us give a warm applause for all of our speakers. So, ladies and gentlemen, I think my time is up. Before I close, Pak Daniel or Pak Yatna, would you like to say something? Or a little bit?
Well, last year, IPI, when Indonesia was the president of G20, we hosted Science 20 here in this building. This year, the president is India, and I'm heading to India day after tomorrow to represent the Akademi in the S20, which is hosted by India. One of the messages that's going to be delivered there, we were talking about post-COVID thing here last year, but now we are mindful about what we call disruptive science, and AI is one of them. So I'm very much inspired by the conversation here, how Indonesia should proceed with the leadership of DIPI, and IPI is really behind all of this, and the machinery should be with DIPI and the young academy, the alumni thing. So thank you very much for your presence and contribution.
Thank you, Pak Daniel. Thank you so much. So I think in closing, this is what I would like to say. I really like this knowledge diffusion stuff. And I'm thinking about sustainability. I'm thinking about conservation. So maybe the science of conservation, you guys should be developing something that is pop culture like, so that it can be ingrained in the mind and in the heart of the public in general. I don't know how the conservation people can do that, but I think this is one of the weakness. I think that the researchers they love the animal, the mammals, etc., but they are maybe talking too much among themselves, and we try to reach out, but there is still this maybe the communication gap or something. So this is, thank you so much for this knowledge diffusion. And then the next issue that I would like to bring out is also about how is it that when we look into the future, the wisdom of the past, we should bring with us, because what is happening right now, we see a decoupling of the development of science with the wisdom. So it seems that the science and technology are running on its own. In evolutionary biology, we have the runaway sexual selection. I don't know if you know about that, but this is when the traits of the males, the antlers and the tail of the birds, that it becomes so long. It's because of runaway sexual selection. What I see right now is that science and technology is also running away without the deep morality and ethics of the community. So with that, how is it that BPDLH can be part of the development of society that also is inclusive of the wisdom, but also have solutions and contribute to the justice, especially for the local community, traditional community. So with that, I would like to close, and thank you so much for being here, all of you. And let's give a warm applause again to Pak Joko, Pak Florian, and also Pak Febri. Terima kasih banyak. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Professor Damayanti, for the fruitful discussion. But I have to hold you all on the stage a little bit longer, just a little bit longer, because I would like to invite Professor Daniel to join on the stage to give a token of appreciation to Professor Damayanti and all the speakers. Maybe we should take a picture together, Professor Daniel, with all the panelists and the moderator. Thank you, Professor Daniel, Professor Yatna, Prof. Damayanti, and all the speakers. And ladies and gentlemen, we will have a 10-minute coffee break. Please find your refreshment outside. And as our objective in this hub is to bring together stakeholders from various sectors to collaborate, so please take the opportunity to network. We will back in 10 minutes.
Intro. Indonesia is a country with a rich history. From the invention of the gamelan to the development of the Pancasila, Indonesians have always been at the forefront of new ideas. But in recent years, Indonesia has faced a number of challenges. The country's population is growing rapidly, and its economy is struggling to keep up. In order to meet the challenges of the 21st century, Indonesia needs to invest in science and technology. Indonesia Science Fund. The Indonesia Science Fund is a new initiative that is helping to address this challenge. The fund provides grants to Indonesian scientists and researchers to conduct cutting-edge research. The fund has already had a significant impact. In just a few years, it has helped to fund hundreds of research projects. These projects have led to new discoveries in a wide range of fields, including medicine, agriculture, and engineering. The Indonesia Innovative Science and Development Hub. The Indonesia Science Fund is also helping to create a new hub for innovation in Indonesia. The hub will bring together scientists, researchers, and entrepreneurs to collaborate on new ideas. The hub will be located in Jakarta, and it will be open to all Indonesians. It will provide a space for people to share their ideas, learn from each other, and build the next generation of Indonesian innovators. Conclusion. The Indonesia Science Fund is an important investment in Indonesia's future. The fund is helping to create a new generation of Indonesian innovators, and it is helping to put Indonesia at the forefront of science and technology. Call to action. If you are a scientist, a researcher, an entrepreneur, or a philanthropist, you can help to build the future of Indonesia by supporting the Indonesia Science Fund. Visit the Indonesia Science Fund website today to learn more and to support us.
Mungkin tidak banyak yang mau berkarya seperti kami. Tidak banyak yang melihat apa yang kami kerjakan. Kami bekerja di balik layar kegemerlapan dunia. Namun kami bangga karena kami meneliti, menemukan, dan menciptakan manfaat bagi kehidupan. Kami bersahabat dengan ilmu pengetahuan, berkawan dengan ketekunan dan ketelitian. Karena kami sadar apa yang kami berikan harus menciptakan perubahan untuk kehidupan yang lebih baik. Menciptakan kehidupan yang sehat, meraih kesembuhan banyak orang, mengembalikan semangat kegembiraan bagi jutaan insan, dan juga membangun produktivitas. Walau kami bekerja dengan banyak keterbatasan, tapi dalam keterbatasan kami menggenggam harapan. harapan baru dalam membangun masa depan ilmu pengetahuan, mengembangkan manfaat bagi mereka yang membutuhkan. Ada yang lebih bernilai selain dukungan bagi apa yang kami kerjakan, bersama mengembangkan dunia penelitian dan ilmu pengetahuan untuk menjadi Indonesia yang unggul.
Science is a step-by-step process. It starts from an unknown thing that you want to understand, and then, piece by piece, researchers, and this, of course, is an international, global effort by many people.
Mayoritas ilmuwan itu sekarang meneliti ini. Mereka perlu ini, mereka perlu ini. Alangkah baiknya kalau kita dengan keahlian kita itu inline begitu. Jadi kita menyumbangkan sesuatu dengan keahlian kita yang inline dengan riset dunia itu.
But there's a big difference, at least here in the United States, I hope elsewhere, between what we know of as grant support and what most business people know of as contracts. A contract, what they're doing in a grant, by funding a grant proposal, is they're saying, we believe in how you are doing your science, and we want to support that.
Di The Conversation, kami memiliki proses editorial yang unik untuk menjamin para pembaca mendapat informasi paling baik dan paling bisa diandalkan. Para penulis kami adalah orang-orang yang sangat paham apa yang mereka tulis. Mereka akademisi dan peneliti yang ahli di bidangnya. Ide tulisan bisa datang dari para pembaca, penulis, atau editor. Biasanya, editor memantau berita untuk mencari topik yang bisa diulas lebih lanjut oleh akademisi. Editor lalu mencari siapa akademisi yang tepat untuk mengulas topik itu. Akademisi juga mengirimkan ide tulisan lewat website kami. Seringkali, ide-ide ini membahas penelitian terbaru. Kolaborasi antara editor dan akademisi akan memastikan hasil riset yang dapat dibaca, dipahami, dan dibagikan oleh masyarakat luas. Kalau editor setuju dengan ide tulisan, ia lalu membuat brief yang berisi pokok-pokok bahasan tulisan tersebut. Brief ini menjadi panduan penulisan. Setelah artikel diserahkan dan diunggah ke sistem, editor akan menambahkan gambar, grafik, audio, video, dan tautan. Editor bersama akademisi kemudian memoles tulisan dan memastikan akurasi fakta. Akademisi dan editor mengerjakan ini semua lewat platform online yang khusus kami sediakan. Pada platform ini, ada software yang menunjukkan kalau tulisan sudah sesuai untuk dibaca oleh siswa usia 16 tahun. Sehingga, konten kami menjadi sumber yang baik untuk mereka. Sebelum diterbitkan, kami meminta persetujuan dari akademisi untuk menjamin agar tidak ada kesalahan selama proses pengeditan. Penulis juga harus mengungkapkan jika ada konflik kepentingan. Misalnya, bila penulis mendapat pendanaan tertentu atau menjadi anggota partai politik. Pengungkapan ini diterbitkan di sebelah tulisan untuk menjamin keterbukaan. Setelah diterbitkan, tulisan akan bisa dibagikan sebagai konten dengan hak cipta terbuka lewat ribuan situs media yang menerbitkan ulang konten kami, seperti ABC, CNN, dan banyak lagi. Kami juga memudahkan media, peneliti, dan pihak lain untuk menghubungi para penulis setelah penerbitan. Ini membuka peluang wawancara TV, radio, media cetak, juga kesempatan kolaborasi lainnya. Selama proses ini, semua penulis dan editor dipayungi piagam redaksi kami yang melindungi kami dari pengaruh komersial dan politik. Di The Conversation, tidak ada paywall, konten bersponsor, ataupun iklan. Kami tidak memiliki posisi ideologis tertentu. Agenda kami adalah mencerahkan masyarakat dan memperkaya perdebatan publik. Kunjungi theconversation.com untuk informasi lebih lanjut.
Intro. Indonesia is a country with a rich history of innovation. From the invention of the gamelan to the development of the Pancasila, Indonesians have always been at the forefront of new ideas. But in recent years, Indonesia has faced a number of challenges. The country's population is growing rapidly, and its economy is struggling to keep up. In order to meet the challenges of the 21st century, Indonesia needs to invest in science and technology. Indonesia Science Fund. The Indonesia Science Fund is a new initiative that is helping to address this challenge. The fund provides grants to Indonesian scientists and researchers to conduct cutting-edge research. The fund has already had a significant impact. In just a few years, it has helped to fund hundreds of research projects. These projects have led to new discoveries in a wide range of fields, including medicine, agriculture, and engineering. The Indonesia Innovative Science and Development Hub. The Indonesia Science Fund is also helping to create a new hub for innovation in Indonesia. The hub will bring together scientists, researchers, and entrepreneurs to collaborate on new ideas. The hub will be located in Jakarta, and it will be open to all Indonesians. It will provide a space for people to share their ideas, learn from each other, and build the next generation of Indonesian innovators. Conclusion. The Indonesia Science Fund is an important investment in Indonesia's future. The fund is helping to create a new generation of Indonesian innovators, and it is helping to put Indonesia at the forefront of science and technology. Call to action. If you are a scientist, a researcher, an entrepreneur, or a philanthropist, you can help to build the future of Indonesia by supporting the Indonesia Science Fund. Visit the Indonesia Science Fund website today to learn more and to support us.
Mungkin tidak banyak yang mau berkarya seperti kami. Tidak banyak yang melihat apa yang kami kerjakan. Kami bekerja di balik layar kegemerlapan dunia. Namun kami bangga karena kami meneliti, menemukan, dan menciptakan manfaat bagi kehidupan. Kami bersahabat dengan ilmu pengetahuan, berkawan dengan ketekunan dan ketelitian. Karena kami sadar apa yang kami berikan harus menciptakan perubahan untuk kehidupan yang lebih baik. Menciptakan kehidupan yang sehat, raih kesembuhan banyak orang, mengembalikan semangat kegembiraan bagi jutaan insan, dan juga membangun produktivitas. Walau kami bekerja dengan banyak keterbatasan, tapi dalam keterbatasan kami menggenggam harapan. Harapan baru dalam membangun masa depan ilmu pengetahuan, mengembangkan manfaat bagi mereka yang membutuhkan. Ada yang lebih bernilai selain dukungan bagi apa yang kami kerjakan, bersama mengembangkan dunia penelitian dan ilmu pengetahuan untuk menjadi Indonesia yang unggul.
Science is a step-by-step process. It starts from an unknown thing that you want to understand, and then, piece by piece, researchers, and this, of course, is an international, global effort by many people.
Mayoritas ilmuwan itu sekarang meneliti ini. Mereka perlu ini, mereka perlu ini. Alangkah baiknya kalau kita dengan keahlian kita itu inline, begitu. Jadi kita menyumbangkan sesuatu dengan keahlian kita yang inline dengan riset dunia itu.
But there's a big difference, at least here in the United States, I hope elsewhere, between what we know of as grant support and what most business people know of as contracts. Mm-hmm. A contract, what they're doing in a grant by funding a grant proposal is they're saying, We believe in how you are doing your science, and we want to support that.
Di The Conversation, kami memiliki proses editorial yang unik untuk menjamin para pembaca mendapat informasi paling baik dan paling bisa diandalkan. Para penulis kami adalah orang-orang yang sangat paham apa yang mereka tulis. Mereka akademisi dan peneliti yang ahli di bidangnya. Ide tulisan bisa datang dari para pembaca, penulis, atau editor. Biasanya, editor memantau berita untuk mencari topik yang bisa diulas lebih lanjut oleh akademisi. Editor lalu mencari siapa akademisi yang tepat untuk mengulas topik itu. Akademisi juga mengirimkan ide tulisan.
Cek.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Innovative Science and Development Hub, the launching of Innovative Science and Development Hub. And now we are moving to the second discussion. I would like to invite Dr. Sony Mumbunan from Center for Climate and Sustainable Finance Universitas Indonesia, who is also a member of Akademi Ilmu Pengetahuan Indonesia or ALMI. Dr. Sony will be our moderator today, and he will invite and introduce our panelists to you. The floor is yours, Dr. Sony.
Thank you very much. Selamat pagi menjelang siang. It's good to be here. I'll be inviting the speakers. Please come and join me here. Ms. Murni Leo, Pak Tony Wage, Pak Ricky. Pak Ricky. Pak, please come forward, Pak. Mr. Julian, please. Silakan. Pak Supanji will be joining us online. That's what I understood. Thank you. We trick the gender balance here. Put you front and center. We'll be having about an hour interactive discussion. So here, what I would like to arrange, each will be saying about 3 minutes what they think about what is addressed in the TOR. But let me introduce, not one by one, but before you present your thought. We'll start with Ms. Murni Leo, the Head of Monitoring, Learning and Education at Tanoto Foundation. She's been working on learning and evaluation for the foundation, and before served also for measurement impact of education improvement programs at the foundation. The program generates evidence and promote data-driven decision-making. And we would love to hear also about the linkage to educational goals. Yeah, please.
Hello. Hi, selamat pagi, good morning everyone, Bapak Ibu yang saya banggakan. Yes, so I am Murni, I'm with the Tanoto Foundation. So if you know that the Tanoto Foundation is actually doing a lot of work in education and also early childhood development and leadership development. So I'm trying I have a very hard time trying to relate to climate change and sustainability, but I would like to share a little bit about my background. So before I moved to development sector, education sector, I'm actually organic chemist by training. And before I moved to development, I actually talked to my professor and I told him that, okay, I want to move to development, but don't worry, you know, I'll still promote science and everything. But it's been 15 years and I haven't got a chance to do it, but so glad today, you know, I get to meet the community of scientists. So it's really nice meet up with everyone and network today. So yeah. So a little bit about the foundations. We've been doing a lot of work improving the lives of you know, people in the rural area of Indonesia for the last 40 years. So we've been also trying to improve and finding out the magic bullets and the science of, like, you know, doing a lot of poverty alleviation work on the ground. But you know, one of the lessons learned that I would like to share today, you know, with our 40 years of experience, is the importance of research and the importance of data for decisions making, you know, like how we can solve even not only climate change, but, you know, social issues that we face every day, like education issue, health issues, stunting, by using all the data and research, collaborating with think tanks, collaborating with researchers out there to really bring out the cutting edge technology, cutting edge innovative programs to solve all these social issues. And there are so many different ways of how the foundation helps to bring forward and promote evidence-based decision-making. I'm just going to share like 3 examples of how we do it. One of the ways, of course, like how the foundation is very much into helping to build the ecosystems of the research in Indonesia. So we've been, for example, collaborating with IIPI, and also we also work with BRIN quite a bit on, you know, like how to help providing fundings and grants to promote research. And then second one is also, we as an operating foundation, we actually work very closely with researchers, young people, to help them, you know, to actually identify ways to do science and innovation. So as probably, I think I met someone from IPB, right? IPB is one of the university where we actually give our scholars, Tanato Scholars Research Award. So every year we kind of like support 20 young people, 20 teams of young people who really have a good ideas about like innovations in various areas, like especially sustainability and climate change. And of course, helping them to also, you know, make their idea commercially viable, because that's usually the case with innovations. And then we also, of course, right, as a foundation, that's as my work, that's related to my work in measurement as well, like, you know, how we actually work with researchers and also think tanks to find the ways to improve public policy, and especially something that's related to our work in educations and stunting. So actually, I want to give a shout out to Mr. Muammar earlier about, like, you know, how we can help to sell science better and how we can help to translate science better. So this is examples of one of the publications that we did at the foundation. It's called Stuntingpedia. If people don't know what stunting is basically like the there is impairment, or like the growth, like the children do not grow to their full potentials because of they don't have enough nutrition and their brain is not developed properly. So a lot of work has been done by, especially in the health sector, about stunting, but you know, it takes actually 40 years like to Indonesia to really identify that this is the problem in Indonesia. And one of the issues probably is because, like, you know, how we can help to deliver all the science, like, you know, brain development, all those the connections in the brain and all of that to the to make sense to the policy maker. So this is like one of the product that we do. Okay, that's a bit of introduction. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thanks for sharing the new publication about stunting, the talk of the town. Hopefully there will be climate, marine, and sustainability in addition to stunting. We'll of course come back to what you call magic points later on. We'll deep dive later. Now let us move to Pak Tony Wage, the Executive Director of Indonesia Climate Change Trust Fund. Pak Tony, what I know is a marine biologist and oceanography specialist, but now turned into climate biologist. Has been a vice president for the Canada-Indonesia Diaspora Society and holds a number of project manager in the past, positions in the past. For example, the Arafura and Timor Seas Ecosystem Action, and Timor Seas Ecosystem, and sorry, yeah, so that's the Arafura and Timor Seas initiative, right? Pak Tony, would you mind sharing us 3-4 minutes about what the TOR asked you to address? Yeah, please.
Thank you, Pak Tony. Well, first of all, thank you, Professor Daniel. You are the president now, so may I call you president? You're president of AIPI, right? Yes. Professor Yatna, for the invitation. This is, for me, it's a challenge to sit here before you all, because I'm not a scientist, I'm not a philosopher, nor a something that, you know, doing much work with science. I am an executor of several projects that been given as a task or a mandate to the Indonesia Climate Change Trust Fund. I'll use the abbreviation ICCTF. It is a semi-government organization because it sits at the Ministry of National Development Planning, or Bappenas, and it is also, for those who are familiar with this APBN style, it is Satker, Satuan Kerja, a working unit in Bappenas. So we have to follow everything with the APBN rules. But anyway, so that's another thing. The question is what ICTF does. So established back in 2009, if you remember 2007, 2009, you know, those are the year where climate change was very much in the minds and topics of all the discussions. So ICCTF was established back then. Now we have been going for more than, well, 10 years, almost 15 years. But this is the opportunity for us to showcase that, you know, we need to do something is that, you know, we have to find some scientific-based policy and community-based implementation. Why is that? Because Bappenas is mandated by the law to provide this national trajectory, the RPJMN, the midterm development plan. This is for 5 years. And especially for this year and next, we are planning or developing the long-term development plan. This is all the way to the 2045 in all sectors. So I'm not going to talk about other sectors, but, you know, this is the thing that we are very much in line with what we have been given the mandate to help the governments pass through Bappenas in the climate change aspect and focus. So this is the science-based policy, community-based implementation. The title is very intriguing here. You have the innovative science. And like I said, you know, this is my disclaimer. I'm not a scientist, but I believe scientific principles, you know, you will have to show case, you have to show proof that that is not only works, you know, in the lab, because I used to work in the lab for many years, but at least, and then you prove that, and then you publish like Professor Daniel, but also you have to make sure, this is in my experience, that will be useful to the communities, because science without the implementation, I think, is not going to be innovative. And that's my premise coming here, is that with the experience that we have been doing in the more than 10 years, and including more than or almost 100 projects in almost all over the provinces in Indonesia, I think we have got the idea of what actually science will help and do when you implement it at the community level. So I've heard speakers earlier talking about the indigenous knowledge or wisdoms. That is very, very important and crucial, especially if you're working in the eastern part of Indonesia where our projects are. Without that, you know, nothing. You won't get anything if you sort of like avoiding, you know, the traditional and the local knowledge. Going back to the ICCTF, established 2009, more than 100 projects. We're managing a small amount of funding, in total of almost $50 million since the beginning. And we have 4 windows of activities. Number 1 is the land-based mitigation, and then the adaptation for climate change, renewable energy. Thank you, Ano Pasoni, for quite some times when we are working in one of those 2 windows. Recently, back in starting 2017, we are focusing more on the coastal and marine ecosystems, and all related to the climate change, of course. I was joking with Pak Yatna that now Pak Yatna was one of our members of the Majelis Wali Amanat, and we are now underwater, Pak. We are diving and snorkeling, doing instead of doing in the peatland area. So That's what we are focusing in the past, say, 4 or 5 years. And the support from this, what we call the development partners, and of course the government is very crucial for us to keep us going. But one thing, this is my final part of the introduction, Pak Sony, is that in all of these projects over the years, in all these areas, one thing that we learned is that the sustainability of what we are doing, given that there's a project, a small projects or the big projects, you have to make sure that it sustains. So we have to work not only with the government, but of course with the local communities, because they will be the one who carried, whatever the projects when it finished. And that is, I think, will be the legacy or whatever the name that, will be carried in your report and your mind when you see your projects, going well after the duration of the project. But that's my last point about this project. And again, underline the issue of the importance of science in implementing whatever project that you are running. Thank you, Pak Sony.
Thank you, Pak Tony. We're getting back to you because you seem to be well positioned to comment on the science part and project management, and then opportunities of mobilizing financial resources or difficulties of mobilizing it. We'll get back to you. Now let us move. We would love to hear Pak Ricky Frindos. He's the I'm sorry, so just following the. He's the executive director of Yayasan Kehati. Ricky has a very long 20 years of experience in investments, both in Jakarta and Singapore, and in the past was also CEO for East Spring Investment, both in Indonesia and Singapore. And we also learned that right now he is also commissioner for Mandiri Management Investasi Indonesia and Mandiri Investment Management Singapore, both under Bank Mandiri. Pak Ricky, would you mind sharing us your thought first, and we'll come back in the discussion.
Okay, thanks, Ibu Bapak. Selamat pagi, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat pagi, Pak Daniel, Pak Jatna. Terima kasih invitation-nya. To be honest, I'm also not very confident to talk about the science. I don't think I have the credential or credibility to talk about the science. The closest that I did related to the science maybe when I studied engineering in university, and I struggled to finish my degree, and then I forgot about it, and I worked in financial market, and now I'm preaching about sustainability. But I heard a quote from Pak Florian before, right? Yeah, that's science is too important to be left to the scientists. So it gave me a bit of encouragement to sit here. So just from my perspective, I think we at national level, we should stop degrading ourselves. I heard a lot, at least from from friends, even from some some like commentators, that we are not talented in science. We are talented in science. We are not born to be good in as scientists as a nation. We are good actually in creativity or innovation, something like that, but not in science. We're good at art, at music, culture, but you're not good in science. I heard a lot about it. So I think we should stop degrading ourselves by keep thinking we are not good at science. Because I don't think we cannot marry between the creativity and of course innovation and science. A lot of the useful implementation of science breakthrough actually is guided by the creativity and innovation. But yes, again, from my perspective as a layman, not as a scientist, there is like a division. There is like a wall, a very thick walls between Ibu Bapak, all you are researchers, scientists, and us, layman people. There's a thick wall that separate us. So sometimes scientific wall to many people, or maybe to me at least, maybe to be more accurate, scientist world. It's just like, something that you can only see from the distance. It's like they live in their own world. So I think we need to break this wall. We need to bring down this wall. I think we need to personify science. Okay, make a story around it so it can blend with the commoners like us, with the layman people. We need more Pak Habibie. I see, the picture of Pak Habibie outside. Pak Habibie inspired me to study engineering, even though I regretted the decision later on in the war in financial markets. We need more Pak Habibie. I think we need to personify. We need a more hero champion in the world of science to break the walls, to break the division between the scientific world. Scientist world and the average people. Maybe a little bit about Kehati Foundation. So definitely we welcome this IDSH, ISDH. This is something that maybe I think Pak Yana knows very well. This is something that Kehati has, my organization has aspired, and I've been trying to do also, and maybe in smaller scale and in biodiversity conservation, because Kehati promote the collaboration among different stakeholders in conservation. It's not only in non-government sectors. We also try to reach out to the governments, even to the private sectors. It's not only to the corporate sectors, but also to the financial market. So we believe in collaboration, because to me, at least what I have observed in the non-profit sectors in the last couple of years, I've been in this, community. Collaboration is really important, not just to build a synergy. I think talk about it later on, because sometimes I see a lot of competition, sometimes unhealthy competition in non-profit sectors. Maybe for those outside non-profit sectors, we'll it's quite surprised to hear it. But to be honest, not to say something bad about the non-profit sector, but just to, it's just like self-critic, because I'm now part of the non-profit sectors. So collaboration is really key, at least to stop, overlapping work, to stop, I think sometimes, not always, maybe the minority of us do it, unhealthy competition or self-claim. So I think this initiative, by creating a platform, collaboration, I think it's really something that we have to support, and Kehati, my organization, are really excited to hear of it, and happy to join the force. Pak Yana, and try to link about the science. It's a bit difficult to try to say it, but in Kehati, of course, we believe in science-based conservation. Pak Tony, sometimes we discuss with Pak Tony as well. So one hard data that I can share with you is, I think at least 20-30% of the grant that we provide is actually to the academic institution. Or maybe I reduce the scientists to the just academic institution, but to just give you some ideas. We don't only provide the grant to the LSM or CSO, in many provinces in Indonesia. We allocate a lot actually to the academic institution, our grant. I think by roughly about 30% to academic institutions. So once again, congratulations, Pak Daniel, Pak Jatna, for the launch of ISDH. Happy, if you're willing to engage us, we try to contribute something to make this successful, because this is aligned with how do we see, to develop the sustainability in Indonesia, at least from the non-profit sector perspective, collaboration and collaboration again and collaboration. Yeah, terima kasih. Yeah, semoga.
Terima kasih, Pak Ricky, and thanks a lot for reminding us that science is just too important to be left alone with scientists. I think the whole idea that underlies the event by inviting other than scientists, I think it's also to invite and put inputs into the hub or the platforms intended by DIPI or IPI in the future. We would like to hear Pak Julian. He is a director of Capital Projects and Infrastructure at the PricewaterhouseCoopers, PwC. A lead partner for the ESG government and infrastructure leader in Indonesia, and has experience in corporate and project finance, strategy and policy, notably in transport sector. Yeah. So, what is your thought on the platform and then the idea of bringing this?
So I also was going to start by saying I don't think I should be here, but we don't need to compete because I only have a bachelor in social science, so I think I should be sitting down there somewhere. But
you manage more than 20 billion, but so
yeah. But I think that illustrates that actually DIPI has done a good thing in bringing non-scientists onto the stage to discuss what we're discussing today. And so, and going back to what Pat February said earlier, of course, in business, we do listen to experts and scientists, hopefully more than we listen to Instagram influencers. But we can't avoid responding to what consumers think. And also, of course, regulators and policymakers. But in the end, what we're looking at is, can we make money? But we also bring a sense of urgency. If I think about the last global crisis, which I think we seem to have solved, the pandemic, at great cost, but it was business that accelerated the research into vaccines. The scientists did the research, but without business, we would still be in lockdown, I think. And the politicians' initial reaction was closing the borders and stopping people moving, which was a short-term measure, but it wasn't the solution. But all of those three have to work together. And I think that's the key for this fund, is if you're funding projects, making sure that it's not just research, but that business and the regulatory situation will be thought about. And if we talk about the climate emergency, I mean, when I started in business, all we cared about is the bottom line, the US dollars. But now we have to think about environment, social, and governance as part of our license to operate in business. We've invented a thing called ESG investing. We've invented carbon credits. Actually, I think we can invent stunting credits. Business could finance the problem, the solution to stunting Indonesia. Why hasn't it been done? Because it's a problem of the developing world, not a problem of the developed world. But it could be done. We could talk about it afterwards, maybe. And if you look at the whole of human development, it's the combination of science, business, and government. Sadly, when I first came to Indonesia 8 years ago, business and finance was focused on building coal power plants, because that's what the government said we had to do. And science wasn't telling us not to do it. And now suddenly we're talking about how do we early retire the coal power plants, which still have a useful life. Hopefully repurposing some of them using biomass, and hopefully not destroying some other part of the environment by creating biomass for the coal power plants. But all that just illustrates how the three different dimensions have to work together. I just want to give one example from, I mean, you may be wondering, so most of my work in Indonesia has been in the infrastructure sector. What's the relevance to science? Well, I've done 4 feasibility studies for municipal waste to energy projects, trying to reduce the amount of plastic going into the ocean, trying to reduce carbon emissions from waste rotting in landfill. Municipal waste to energy, and the number of times over I've had to work with scientists and engineers to explain to policymakers why, okay, burning waste to make energy is not the perfect solution, but pragmatically it's going to happen faster than convincing 280 million Indonesians to recycle all their waste. That's part of the solution, but we need quick solutions. But despite demonstrating the financial feasibility of municipal waste to energy, in response to a presidential decree in 2018 that said it was prioritized, none of them have been implemented yet. So I think that is an illustration of why actually it's quite easy to get business on board, but you have to get the policymakers on board as well in order for science to fulfill its potential. I think I can stop there. But thank you and look forward to the rest of the discussion.
Thanks a lot, Pak Julian. It's just very nice to see how matchmaking can suddenly, I mean, you guys can clearly see opportunities, probably somewhat better than the scientists. But we have last speakers with us. Pak Supanji will be joining online. That's what I understood. Yes, Pak Supanji. Yeah. So we have Pak Supanji, Vice President Director of PT Jarum Foundation. Is it on?
Yang kami hormati, Profesor Dr. Daniel Murdiarso, Profesor Yatna Supriyatna, PhD, Mas Adam, dan Mbak Sari. Bapak Ibu panelis, serta moderator yang kami hormati. Terima kasih atas undangan dari Indonesian Science Fund untuk hadir dalam acara diskusi hari ini. Kami mohon maaf bahwa kami tidak bisa hadir secara offline, karena pada hari yang sama, saya ditugaskan untuk menerima kunjungan Wakil Gubernur Jawa Tengah. Kami, Franciscus Saverius Supanji dari Jarum Foundation. Kami diminta untuk membagikan kiprah Jarum Trees for Life untuk apa dan bagaimana. Jarum Foundation dengan tagline Bakti pada Negeri mempunyai 5 program kegiatan. 1 adalah Jarum Bakti Sosial yang berdiri tahun 1951, Jarum Bakti Olahraga 1969, Jarum Bakti Lingkungan 1979, Jarum Bakti Pendidikan 1984. Serta Jarum Bakti Budaya 1992. Mari kita telusuri bersama kegiatan Jarum Bakti Lingkungan dari awal. Awal dari Jarum Bakti Lingkungan adalah kondisi Kota Kudus yang saat itu gersang karena penebangan pohon peneduh di tepi jalan demi pelebaran jalan-jalan protokol di Kota Kudus. Oleh seorang direktur Jarum yang bernama Insinyur Kui Eng Liat almarhum, beliau mengajukan permohonan izin kepada Bupati saat itu untuk menanam pohon kembali di tepi jalan protokol di Kota Kudus. Izin ini disetujui dan kami menanam pohon dengan perlindungan perda saat itu. Sehingga berhasil menanam pohon di seluruh jalan protokol di Kota Kudus. Nah, kegiatan penghijauan semacam ini tidak bisa diam begitu saja karena dinilai sangat positif dan berkembang ke masyarakat luas di sekitar Kudus. Beberapa tahun kami telah membantu juga bibit tanaman pohon buah-buahan kepada masyarakat sekitar Kudus dan banyak menghasilkan penghasilan tambahan buat masyarakat. Dan di tahun-tahun itu mangga di Kota Kudus, bahkan yang namanya mangga aromanis itu sangat terkenal di Kota Kudus, telah melimpah keluar kota. Nah, kegiatan berikutnya adalah bahwa kegiatan ini tidak bisa dengan ketergantungan beli bibit, tapi kita akan membibit sendiri. Maka dibangunlah pusat pembibitan tanaman Nah, di situ mulai kita membantu lebih luas lagi, dan pada puncaknya dimulai tahun 2010, di mana kita mulai program penanaman terumbu besi berawal dari kota Kudus ke barat. Kita menanam pohon terumbu besi di dua sisi jalan sampai ke arah barat, ke Merak, dari Kudus ke arah timur sampai Banyuwangi, dengan total panjang jalan 1.350 km. Penanaman ini selesai di tahun 2015. Namun untuk dicatat bahwa setiap penanaman selesai di setiap ruas jalan, kami selalu mengadakan perawatan yang tidak henti selama 3 tahun. Selama 3 tahun, pohon dirasa sudah cukup kuat untuk berdiri sendiri tanpa perawatan yang berarti. Oleh karena itu, pada usia 3 tahun, kami serahkan pohon-pohon tersebut kepada pemerintah daerah. Hasil dari penanaman ini sangat dirasakan oleh masyarakat, terutama yang lalu lalang setiap hari mengarungi Jalan Raya Pantura. Ada seorang sopir yang sangat terkesan oleh kami, mengirim surat terima kasih setiap berhenti di bawah pohon terumbu besi, mengirimkan kartu pos terima kasih kepada Jarum Foundation yang telah menanam pohon terumbu besi di mana kami bisa berteduh gitu. Nah, ini semua kami syukuri, dan kami lanjutkan penanaman di Pulau Jawa tersebut. Di Pantura kami menanam sekitar Pulau Madura 296 km, lalu Joglo Semar, Jogja, Solo, dan Semarang itu berputar, lalu Lombok, Pangkalan Udara, dan Bandara Kuala Namu. Tanaman terumbu besi kita lanjutkan di jalan tol Trans Sumatera, mulai dari Lampung ke arah Aceh. Dan saat ini kami sedang melanjutkan sampai ke Bakauni. Panjang jalan tol Trans Sumatera tersebut diperkirakan sepanjang 2.800 km. Jadi perjalanan penanaman terumbu besi ini masih berjalan panjang. Oleh karena itu kita tinggalkan sementara, dan marilah kita menengok kegiatan di sekitar Kudus. Di lereng Gunung Muria dan Pati Ayam yang berada di sekitar 3 kabupaten, yaitu Kudus, Jepara, dan Pati, kita dapatkan daerah-daerah yang kritis, artinya kurang pohon. Nah, ini menyebabkan bahaya-bahaya bencana alam yang beberapa kali terjadi, yaitu banjir dan tanah longsor. Oleh karena itu, mulai tahun 2021 kami mengadakan kegiatan, mengadakan survei di tahun sebelumnya, dengan bantuan dari The Nature Conservancy, atau di Indonesia disebut Yayasan Konservasi Alam Nusantara. Diadakan survei ke lereng Muria dan juga Pati Ayam tentang daerah-daerah yang kritis. Kita dapatkan sekitar 3.500 hektar yang kritis. Nah, di samping itu kita dapatkan habitat. Di dalam habitat tersebut beberapa ekor macan tutul yang berjumlah 13 ekor dan masih banyak beberapa mangsa macan tutul itu masih ada. Oleh karena itu timbul pemikiran untuk menjaga kelestarian macan tutul ini karena hewan ini sudah mendekati kritis juga di Pulau Jawa. Oleh karena itu kami tengah mengadakan pendekatan kepada Gubernur Jawa Tengah yang ditunjang oleh usulan dari Bupati Kudus, Pati, dan Jepara untuk mengadakan perlindungan terhadap macan tutul dan mangsanya ini di sekitar lereng Muria. Dengan kegiatan penanaman daerah kritis di lereng Muria dan Patiaya, kita berharap mata air akan hidup kembali dan menyuburkan tanah-tanah sekitarnya. Lalu penghasilan masyarakat di lereng Muria dan Patiaya meningkat karena hasil buah yang bisa diharapkan dari tanaman itu bisa menghidupi masyarakat luas. Dan tentunya mengurangi timbulnya bahaya banjir, tanah longsor di sekitar Kudus, Pati, dan Jepara. Kegiatan yang tidak kalah penting di Kudus, kecuali yang kita sebutkan tadi, adalah masalah sampah. Saat ini kita sedang menangani sampah di Kota Kudus yang tidak kurang dari 20 ton tiap hari sampah organik yang kami kumpulkan dari masyarakat dengan bekerja sama dengan restoran, hotel, kafe-kafe, pasar yang ada di Kudus, dan tentunya dengan Dinas Lingkungan Hidup. Kami setiap hari memproses sampah organik sekitar 20 ton untuk menjadi kompos. Dan kompos ini kami kembalikan ke alam di negeri ini, ya khususnya mesti di Muria dan Patiaya, dan tidak lupa kepada masyarakat luas yang membutuhkan adanya kompos ini. Segala usaha kami ini semua kami usahakan dengan sosialisasi kepada masyarakat dan tentunya bantuan seluruh masyarakat yang ada untuk atau demi lingkungan hidup kita yang lebih baik. Jarum Foundation dengan tagline Bakti pada Negeri, artinya kami melakukan yang terbaik untuk negeri ini demi kehidupan lingkungan yang lebih baik dan sehat kepada masyarakat luas. Sekian dan terima kasih.
Terima kasih banyak Pak Supanji. Tadi adalah recorded video. Jadi mudah-mudahan nanti di waktu yang baik di masa datang kita bisa bertemu dan berdiskusi. Izin saya pindah ke yang lebih interaktif. So Pak Supanji will join us. There will be 4 of us here. I have a list of questions from Panitia, but given the interest of time, probably I'll pick the most, not really the pressing one, probably the ones with the most relevance. We probably should start from Pak Friki. Pak Bariki.
Hello.
Yeah. So imagine we have this hub, this innovative science and development hub or platform. Now, if you can put yourself, you position yourself as scientists. We notice that you are a bit afraid of a scientist. But how would you imagine that this hub will be something productive, something useful for scientists, but then you put yourself, you know, in that very position. Could you mind share us about
Okay,
about
thanks,
it?
Pak,
Yeah.
for the question. I think first of all, perhaps the most important one, I think the ISDH, you need to get a buy-in, right, from the stakeholders. If you like to get supported by the community, scientist community or non-scientist community, I think the basic question from those that you ask to join your force is, what's in it for me? It could be not just about money, basically. I'm not sure whether ISDH will provide fund, whatever, but what's in it for the scientists, for the non-scientists. From our experience in Kehati Foundation, we actually developed a number of collaborative platform. Many of them actually we convert into something permanent in terms of trust fund. There are 5 trust funds actually that we Kehati managing at the moment and implement the program, which is funded by these 5 trust fund. 2 of the funds actually is initiated by Pak Yana, 2 of the 5. So I think getting the buy-in from actually, in fact, from the process of the establishment of that platform, we already engage, all the important stakeholders. TFCA, for example, even Blue Abadi Fund, maybe even better example. Actually, we really start from bottom up. So we don't come to the stakeholders and tell them we have this, and this is our mission, this is our vision. How can you help us? How can you contribute? Or how can we help you? But we really start, from the very beginning. We engage all the stakeholders. What kind of platform that you think that will be helpful for you, that we can contribute to you, or you can contribute to us? So I think it's really get the support, get a buy-in from the stakeholders, from bottom up process, not just top down. I think that's even will be very critical to the success of this initiative, which I believe Pak Daniel, Pak Yana, and others have done it. Maybe we just like reminder. One example that I would like to share here from the Kehati Foundation is the Blue Abadi Fund. This is actually initiative from many organizations, some other environmental organizations like WWF, CI, TNC, and Kehati as well, and also some philanthropist organization, mostly from the United States. But we also engage, and actually put in our formal structure some representative from the community in Papua where we are operating, like the perwakilan, and what's in English, masyarakat adat, for example. We not just consult them, but they are part of the official grant making decision process. So I think that's, you get a buy-in from the stakeholders and from the bottom up process. That's a little bit from me, but yeah.
Thank you, Pak Riki. That's very, very, very nice and important. I like to build on that, picking up that point. What's in it for me or for us? But to Pak Julian, how do you, when it comes to this, what's in it for us, see how will it benefit scientists?
Well, I think in my time in Indonesia, I've been involved in several hubs. And the hub, what does it mean? It means it's the center of something. But I think what we need is the hubs, the hub's hub. So this hub needs to talk to the other hubs. But in particular, I mean, if we talk, as I mentioned earlier, if we talk about involving business, I mean, Indonesia has a very vibrant ecosystem for digital startups, and there's a lot of investment money as well as philanthropic money out there. So the one thing that the hub has to get right is those linkages, as Pat Ricky was saying. I don't know, and probably if the hub is looking at funding different projects, that should be the first question: is where will this project go in 2 or 3 years' time? I remember I was involved in a panel assessing research grants. And bearing in mind, in my world of consultancy, most projects last 3 months. And by the end of 3 months, you've got conclusions and you present them to the client. And the thing that shocked me was when I was looking at these research applications and the research was going to go on for 3 or 5 years. And I'm thinking, well, I understand why sometimes it takes time to get results, but having a sense of urgency and understanding, well, when are we going to get the payback or the benefit is worth thinking about if you want to attract business, I think.
Thank you, Pak Julian. Bu Murni, if you don't mind, we as mentioned, we have hubs of hubs. So there are many hubs. Could you sort of recommend or suggest what kind of successful hubs, in your very opinion, that you may want to recommend? Oh, DIPI or IIP should consider establishing ones, please.
I got the difficult questions. Okay,
but that
so
will be very, very helpful. So,
yes, exactly. It's like all the tough questions. The foundation really believes in promoting a system change. So when we are talking about system change, it's like, you know, how everyone can collaborate together, and platforms, any kind of platforms is very important to make sure that a system change is actually happening. So all these hubs, like, you know, people coming together, these hubs that works as a catalyst, right? Like bringing people together, conducting, sharing, make sure that everyone has a place to share their work or to learn from each other. I think that's really very important. And if you see what the hub can do, if we track, right, if we trace the how research can transform into policy, there's so many you know, empty space and white space where everyone can contribute. So if you see there's how someone can identify the knowledge gap, and then, you know, when we identify the knowledge gap, how we build the capacity and also the quality of research in Indonesia, you know, that someone has to play a role there. And then, you know, once we get the findings, who will be the one that's like translating all of this into for policymaker or even like for market to be able to adopt this. And then once it goes to the market, how do you scale it in the size of Indonesia, which is very diverse, you know, a lot of iterations going on there. So I guess a good hub is the hub that catalyzes all of this to be able to happen, especially in the market like Indonesia, which is like very young and exciting and like a lot of things to do here. Yeah, that's what I think.
Thank you, because we are running out of time, but I'll still have questions, Tony, if you don't mind. Say, what would you like to propose 2 or 3 key priorities for the hub or platform? Based on your reflections, you know, bringing together between the science part, the policy part, and, you know, managing things, feeding into sort of the idea of the hub. Yeah. Boleh 5 tapi 2 or 3.
Yeah, well, we have 4 of us here, and I would like to propose that, you know, at least the 4 of us here must support what this establishment and the launching of this hub, because that's the very not easy, but, you know, the very first thing that we could think of. You're talking about the platform, the hub of hubs, but what I'm thinking is that we all are doing a good job in our field, in our work, but in terms of getting and bringing the scientific aspects, you know, of course, this is something that we sometimes forget, and I think this opportunity reminds us or brings us the importance of, hey, we have this hub, we have all this smart people here, and they could help us in delivering our job, our work, because they have different kind of like a variety and disciplines and stuff. 1 minute, but when I first came back, you know, with all this idealism from, you know, abroad after my degree. So I thought, okay, well, I have been equipped with information and knowledge, so I'm ready to go to the field. This is coming back from Canada. But the first thing I remember my task was, can you translate this paper into policy and then give it to the DG, Director General, or the ministers. And basically, my boss was Pak Indro Yono. He said, I couldn't understand this, Tony. You have to make it a simple, more direct words. Otherwise, I'm not understanding all this graph, curves, and everything. So that goes into my first strike. Okay, well, so this is something that I did not learn at school. This is something that you need to practice, and then with times, and then from there you have to implement that policy from science to policy. I agree with you, Ibu Murni, into the implementation at the grassroots. That's another level of communication, because you're not talking science here. You're talking bahasa adat. If you are in Papua or in Maluku or anywhere in Indonesia, that's the best way of communication with scientific understanding at the background. And I think this is what I've been doing so far is, just taking some of the information from the scientific literature, information, and then implement that on the ground. And I think going back to the supporting this hub, this is a good place for us to be reminded and then to learn something, because they have the resources, they have the knowledge, they have the information. One final thing is that, well, if we would like to support this, maybe in our projects, upcoming projects, why don't we just invite them and then, be as our guest speaker? I think Professor Daniel, Professor Yana wouldn't mind to give half an hour of their time to give a talk in our, each of us of the forum that we are hosting. So I don't know, that's maybe too much, but I think that's something that I would like to see what us, the practitioner can link with what you're having here. Thank you, Pak.
Thank you. That's very concrete. Yeah. Pak Julian, would you mind sharing key priorities, which is one or two that you think should be, at least in time frame 1 to 2 years, should be a part of the hub?
I'll just give you one example of exactly what Dr. Tony just said. I was talking to Professor Daniel before the event started, and I said I'm helping the Indonesian Carbon Trading Association to organize an event called Digital Carbon Expo. So far, we don't have any scientists on the panel. Can you recommend a scientist who can come and join the event? And he's promised to give me the name later today of one of his colleagues who's working this area. So I hope that's an example of how we can work going forward.
Thank you. That's very practical invitation. Pak, silakan. Any ideas that can help us?
I'm not sure about it, but I think maybe one thing that I would like to emphasize, perhaps because the ISDH is a new platform, maybe you need to have like quick win, quick win, maybe high profile, not necessarily big in terms of scale, but something that can be digested and appreciated by average people. Anyone outside the scientist world that can attract, and at the end I'm talking about the buy-in from the stakeholders around. It's something like quick win, high profile, something that you can communicate to the rest of the world about what the ISDH are actually trying to achieve.
Thank you very much. So Pak Panji is still with us. Yeah, Pak Emil Salim, Prof. Emil Salim was also with us. But probably no longer. Okay, so Pak Panji, could you comment on, strategic area-area yang dianggap strategis begitu Pak, tapi dalam 1 sampai 2 tahun dalam jangka pendek bagi hub ini, silakan Pak.
Yeah, first of all, I just want to say sorry for not being with you, all the panelists and moderator, because of my job here in Kudus. So in years to come, I still have the problem or job with the environment. So with that about the environment. especially we are also responsible for that. And that's all. Can you hear us? Hello?
Yes, Pak, silakan.
Yes. That's what we do in environmental of the Jarum Foundation. So thanks a lot for those of you, panelists and also moderators. That's all.
Terima kasih Pak Panji, thanks a lot, and also thank for being with us still.
You're welcome.
Ibu Bapak, karena waktu kita perlu akhiri kegiatan ini. Sesi saat ini masih ingin banyak yang ingin kita sampaikan, tapi izinkan saya beri 3-4 poin saja, singkat saja ya, tak sampai 1 menit. Yang pertama, pentingnya science, atau scientist and scientist sama-sama begitu addressing humanity issue, climate change, biodiversity, environmental pollution, you name it. Pertama itu. Yang kedua, financial feasibility should be coupled with implementation. Tanpa itu, it's not going anywhere. Jadi ide bagus dari bisnis, tapi policy makers nggak ketemu, tidak akan kemana-mana. Itu yang kedua. Yang ketiga, tadi Pak Panji menarik ceritanya bahwa penting untuk menanam, merawat, dan ada exit strategi. Tanam pohon, rawat, ada exit strategi bagi Pemda untuk kasus pohon. Tanam saja, tidak dirawat, tidak juga kemana-mana. Dan tentu tidak bisa diberikan gitu ya, exit strategi. Ketiga, yang keempat, hubs yang ingin dibangun oleh DIPI perlu support system change. Terima kasih sudah bersama kami diskusi ini. Masih ada sesi pertanyaan? Bisa pertanyaan? 1 pertanyaan. Okay. Apparently I need my own hub. I have many information coming with timing. Yeah. So this is yeah. Anyway. 1 pertanyaan, kalau singkat mungkin bisa 2. Memberi pertanyaan singkat itu challenge untuk orang Indonesia. Ya. 1 pertanyaan. Kalau tidak ada, akan saya serahkan kepada moderator. Ya. Kalau tidak, ya sudah saya bertanya. Ibu Bapak, panelis, are you guys happy? Terima kasih banyak ya. Saya kembalikan pada moderator.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Sony and all the panelists. Please stay for a while on the stage. I will invite Professor to give a token of appreciation to our moderator and all the speakers here. Okay, we will take photo together, Pak Daniel.
Presiden. Gini Pak Riki. Nah. Oke. Oh, belum. Ya,
Thank you all the speakers for the insightful discussion.
Yes. Iya, oke ya.
Okay, we are almost in the end of the seminar. To give the closing remarks about our discussion today, I would like to invite again Professor Yatna Executive Director, Indonesian Science Fund, IPI Trend of Innovative Science and Development in Indonesia, Hub. Please come to the stage, Professor Yatnya, to give closing remarks, please.
Good afternoon, everybody. Selamat siang, Bapak Ibu sekalian. Terima kasih atas kehadirannya. So, I don't want to read all the conclusion of this meeting. I already prepared coretan, yeah. But I think it's a very important that I little bit read, but also comment of those from this morning up to afternoon. Bapak Ibu, first of all, I want to offer some concluding remarks for this seminar and the launch of the Indonesia Science and Development Hub. I believe that since 2016, the SDG worldwide, including all member countries, science has been playing a significant role in achieving the goals. However, a proper mobilization of science and technology need to be stronger and action-oriented plans, especially during this embracing, as Pak Daniel mentioned, about the disruptive science, right? I think that sustainability, as mentioned by Ibu Dami and Florian and everybody, is becoming so much interested in the world. So sustainability science becoming much a new science frontier and emerging, and it is really transdisciplinary. And Budami has the special center for making this progress on these SDGs and other things. So this Florian mentioned of the AI, I think it's really the big data collation and analyzing the predictive patterns that you provide science an excellent opportunity for us to study either biological, social, ecological, anything that related to science and humanities. The knowledge that has long been fundamental for humanities, and especially a lot of new breakthrough in science and technology, transforming our philosophical perspective and cultural perception, as mentioned by Pak Florian. So, but I believe that science is not just product of individual and or product individual scientists and their discoveries. The social and cultural context also shapes the science. Science plays a significant part in shaping social perspective, the cultural worldwide concepts and thinking of pattern. So multiple actors from public, private, voluntary sectors, NGOs, is mentioned by Pak Iki Pandos and Ibu Marians and everybody. It is really important, especially to understand the relationship for the advantages and opportunity for improved human welfare. Also, with the new recent advance in technology, AI, also ML, machine learning. ML is machine learning, right? So we have excitement on science. We do hope that this cannot be just mentioned or just discuss what Pak Ferbi mentioned, that we are not only discussing. We need to do something, right? So this today, our discussion is really encompassing the science, the sustainability, policy, implementation, the role of institution, and also discussion whether that this platform is really suitable for us. As disruptive science, scientific base, science in the communities mentioned, also how do we transform the science into community. So I'm really delighted that discussion today, really wide range of subject, but also I believe that this platform can represent significant step in bridging the gap between science and policy. We know that there is no one institution that can be host, that stakeholders, NGOs, government, university, media, and others can sit together and discuss about everything on science. This hub, hopefully, that can enable us to foster scientific research, innovation, development activities within specific domains, so anything. So what is the hub? Everybody was just looking, what is the hub? What is the platform? What is the deck? What Daniel mentioned. What is everything? I think it's a platform of collaboration. We are not looking for the money only. We're not looking for, because all the rest, but not that. We're trying to get everybody collaborate. The one have the money can share. The one have knowledge can also contribute. So Science and Development Hub can in different shape and size, catering to specific scientific discipline or embracing a broader interdisciplinary research or interdisciplinary approach. This hub provides researchers, scientists, innovators, entrepreneurs, and other stakeholders with research facilities, funding opportunity, networking event, and resource to support their scientific project and initiative. Whether that pop culture, as mentioned by Febri, still there? No. Pop culture is also important. But how do we get this pop culture? Also to sit also together with very serious scientists and also the entrepreneur. How do we get that together? I write so many things during this discussion, like from I don't know, from Parike, stop degrading ourselves, bring down the wall. I like that, the ideas there. How that platform can be without wall, the wall making that separate us between Pariki as a business and transform Ibu Murni, who is also a lot of stunting and education and others. How do we get this collaboration that is making us in the same level? Not because we have money, so becoming donors, and donors always has hand above us. I think it's really important that Pak Panji, who restore 1,350 kilometers road. Anybody know? No one knows. And this is really important. The hub also can, help marketing all these things. Pak Tony Wage is my boss in the ICCTF. He's always good. And how do we making this happen? Because he's the guy who can survive under the government wings, which is very difficult. But Pak Tony survived. So then he can help us, How do we work? Hub for hub. I think hub for hub is nothing, We need real hub. And that's why, Julian, I really need you to work with us. And how do we get this hub, real hub? And then, of course, that, as Pak Daniel said, that, science is very important for everybody. Because science basically, or knowledge, is always gap. Knowledge to policy is very not easy, because knowledge here, policy, government as a party, has many other things. But knowledge to innovation, maybe that's really easy. But as Tony said, from knowledge and innovation to community, that's different word. I think this should be in our hub for discussion. The last one, Bapak Ibu, I think I'd like to, before we finish, I'd like to acknowledge the challenge that lie ahead, limited funding, of course. I think that everybody's smiling when we are talking about the funding, because our moderator, either Ibu Dami or Pak Sony, will challenge everybody. What are you going to do with this? But that's really the beauty, That's why the platform, that's why the hub, We, as the Indonesian Academy of Science, the task based on the law, Pak Daniel, is really trying to embracing everybody on the science, trying to push, trying to support how the science becoming science-based policy of everything. Bapak Ibu, let us continue our collective effort to shape a better future for our society, planet, future generation, by embracing the power of science, collaboration, and sustainable practice. We can create a world where innovation thrives, sustainability prevails, and scientific advancement drive positive change. Once again, I extend my sincere appreciation to all those who have been part of the enriching discussion today. Your active participation and valuable insight have made the event truly remarkable. Thank you all. May the force be with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Yatna. And ladies and gentlemen, this is the end of our seminar. The speech of Professor Yatna also wrap up our launchings of the Innovative Science and Development Hub. Thank you very much for your attention and participation. We would like to apologize for any inconvenience that might have occurred today. And after this, we have a networking lunch session. So we hope that all the participants here can take this opportunity to network. Thank you very much. I'm Aprilia. See you in the next event.
Intro. Indonesia is a country with a rich history of innovation. From the invention of the gamelan to the development of the Pancasila, Indonesians have always been at the forefront of new ideas. But in recent years, Indonesia has faced a number of challenges. The country's population is growing rapidly, and its economy is struggling to keep up. In order to meet the challenges of the 21st century, Indonesia needs to invest in science and technology. Indonesia Science Fund. The Indonesia Science Fund is a new initiative that is helping to address this challenge. The fund provides grants to Indonesian scientists and researchers to conduct cutting-edge research. The fund has already had a significant impact. In just a few years, it has helped to fund hundreds of research projects. These projects have led to new discoveries in a wide range of fields, including medicine, agriculture, and engineering. The Indonesia Innovative Science and Development Hub. The Indonesia Science Fund is also helping to create a new hub for innovation in Indonesia. The hub will bring together scientists, researchers, and entrepreneurs to collaborate on new ideas. The hub will be located in Jakarta, and it will be open to all Indonesians. It will provide a space for people to share their ideas, learn from each other, and build the next generation of Indonesian innovators. Conclusion. The Indonesia Science Fund is an important investment in Indonesia's future. The fund is helping to create a new generation of Indonesian innovators, and it is helping to put Indonesia at the forefront of science and technology. Call to action. If you are a scientist, a researcher, an entrepreneur, or a philanthropist, you can help to build the future of Indonesia by supporting the Indonesia Science Fund. Visit the Indonesia Science Fund website today to learn more and to support us.
Mungkin tidak banyak yang mau berkarya seperti kami. Tidak banyak yang melihat apa yang kami kerjakan. Kami bekerja di balik layar kegemerlapan dunia. Namun kami bangga karena kami meneliti, menemukan, dan menciptakan manfaat bagi kehidupan. Kami bersahabat dengan ilmu pengetahuan, berkawan dengan ketekunan dan ketelitian. Karena kami sadar apa yang kami berikan harus menciptakan perubahan untuk kehidupan yang lebih baik. Menciptakan kehidupan yang sehat, meraih kesembuhan banyak orang, mengembalikan semangat kegembiraan bagi jutaan insan, dan juga membangun produktivitas. Walau kami bekerja dengan banyak keterbatasan, tapi dalam keterbatasan kami menggenggam harapan. Harapan baru dalam membangun masa depan ilmu pengetahuan, mengembangkan manfaat bagi mereka yang membutuhkan. Ada yang lebih bernilai selain dukungan bagi apa yang kami kerjakan, bersama mengembangkan dunia penelitian dan ilmu pengetahuan untuk menjadi Indonesia yang unggul.
Science is a step-by-step process. It starts from an unknown thing that you want to understand, and then, piece by piece, researchers, and this, of course, is an international, global effort by many people.
Mayoritas ilmuwan itu sekarang meneliti ini. Mereka perlu ini, mereka perlu ini. Alangkah baiknya kalau kita dengan keahlian kita itu inline begitu. Jadi kita menyumbangkan sesuatu dengan keahlian kita yang inline dengan riset dunia itu.
But there's a big difference, at least here in the United States, I hope elsewhere, between what we know of as grant support and what most business people know of as contracts. A contract, what they're doing in a grant by funding a grant proposal is they're saying, we believe in how you are doing your science, and we want to support that.
Di The Conversation, kami memiliki proses editorial yang unik untuk menjamin para pembaca mendapat informasi paling baik dan paling bisa diandalkan. Para penulis kami adalah orang-orang yang sangat paham apa yang mereka tulis. Mereka akademisi dan peneliti yang ahli di bidangnya. Ide tulisan bisa datang dari para pembaca, penulis, atau editor. Biasanya, editor memantau berita untuk mencari topik yang bisa diulas lebih lanjut oleh akademisi.